Chapter 1263. Looking at Sun Hongjun, who had sunken eyes and looked haggard in a few days, Sun San really couldn't bear it, so he said, "Master, you should eat something. You can't always smoke like this. I can't eat." Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly, put out the cigarette in his hand, and threw it in the ashtray beside him. Although they were put under house arrest by Tian Long here, Tian Long ordered his men not to treat the Sun family badly. Therefore, cigarettes, wine, and food were all available. Except for not being able to enter and leave freely, they basically had whatever they wanted. "Dad, you don't have to worry too much. Where there is life, there is hope." Sun Jia looked at her father, and she really had some heartache. In just a few days, Sun Hongjun seemed to have aged more than 10 years. He was not as spirited as before. Now, he was more like an old man in his twilight years. Although Sun Jia had no idea, if she continued to be pessimistic at the moment, then the Sun family would be completely finished. Therefore, Sun Jia couldn't be as lethargic as Sun Hongjun. She had to be more optimistic so that she could persist and wait for an unknown opportunity. Tian Long could suddenly betray and embezzle the Sun family's property, which was unexpected by the entire Sun family. The Sun family's trust in Tian Long was just like Tian Long's trust in Wang Renping. They had never doubted it. It was just ridiculous that the Sun family trusted Tian Long so much, but Tian Long betrayed the Sun family. Tian Long trusted Wang Renping so much, but Wang Renping was about to betray him. However, this was what the Sun family did not expect. Sun Jia really had no other way now. Even if she was conceited and smart, in this situation where she was under house arrest, Sun Jia had no other way. There was no way to contact the outside world, so they could only continue to stay here. In the past 2 days, Sun Hongjun also reasoned with the people guarding them, promising that if they let them go, there would definitely be rewards in the future, but these people were indifferent. When the Sun family's people saw that it was hopeless to lobby, they had to give up. After thinking about it later, it was no wonder. These people were at the bottom of society. After they let them go, they would be killed by their superiors before they could have a meteoric rise and rewards in the future. What's more, it was not just 1 or 2 people guarding here. Even if they opened the door and let them go, there were still layers of defense outside. It was impossible for them to successfully instigate everyone. Under such power, who would dare to act rashly? "Little Jia, it's all because I trusted Tian Long too much, which led to today's situation." Sun Hongjun sighed, "But you were dragged into this. If I had known earlier, I would have handed over all the family business to you. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. It's all my fault for being too stubborn. With Yang Ming's relationship with you, he will definitely call you. If he finds out that he can't find you, he will definitely notice the problem." Sun Hongjun nodded. Sun Jia was a little dumbfounded. She thought, "You guys overestimate Yang Ming too much. Even if he finds something wrong, there is no way to compete with Tian Long, right? In the territory of Donghai, do you think Tian Long is a vegetarian?" Even Sun Jia faintly didn't want Yang Ming to get involved in this matter because it wasn't a good thing for Yang Ming to get involved when he didn't have a chance of winning. She didn't know why she was worried about Yang Ming. Sun Jia sighed slightly. At this time, she naturally couldn't say anything discouraging. Finally, her father had something to look forward to, and his spirit was better. Sun Jia naturally had to cheer him up, so she said, "Yeah, Yang Ming will definitely have a way. I believe that he will be able to save us." "Who will save you?" Outside the room, there was a gloomy and even disdainful voice. "Tian Long?" Sun Hongjun was familiar with this voice. He frowned and said, "What are you doing here again? I want to see how you guys are doing, President's son, Miss, and third brother." Tian Long pushed the door open with a fake smile. Although he was very respectful, his tone didn't mean any respect. Behind Tian Long stood 4 macho men. Apparently, they were Tian Long's bodyguards. However, rather than saying that they were Tian Long's bodyguards, it was better to say that they were here to deter the Sun family so that they wouldn't take the opportunity to escape when the door was opened. In fact, the Sun family also understood that they couldn't run out even if they wanted to. There were people guarding outside the door. For the sudden arrival of Tianlong, Sun Hongjun and Sun Jia were a little surprised. They didn't know what he was doing so late. Sun Hongjun snorted coldly. Don't pretend. You know what you did. There is no need to say this again. Tianlong snorted. Do you think that Yang Ming can come and save you? He can't even protect himself. How can he save you? It's ridiculous. What do you mean? Sun Jia asked subconsciously. Unconsciously, Sun Jia suddenly realized that Yang Ming had occupied a large part of her heart. When she heard that Yang Ming was in danger, Sun Jia's heart tightened subconsciously. If Yang Ming didn't come to me, I would have gone to him. Tianlong wasn't afraid to say more because the Sun family would just listen to it. Anyway, they were under house arrest here. They couldn't turn the tables even if they wanted to. Sun Jia pursed her lips and couldn't help but say, if you are willing to die, I have no opinion. Tianlong smiled and completely treated Sun Jia's words as a joke. He didn't want to waste time with these people. Since he had already done it, there was no need to be a bitch. It didn't make any sense to set up a memorial arch. Tianlong turned and left the Sun family's room. He didn't come here to see the Sun family, but to see Tian Donghua. Tian Donghua was his own son after all. Tianlong was in the villa. He couldn't calm down no matter how he thought about it. Why did he fight for this huge foundation? Wasn't it for Tian Donghua? However, Tianlong could not understand his own painstaking efforts, which made Tianlong very distressed. Suddenly, most of his previous passion disappeared, so he really could not stay any longer, so he set off to this abandoned junkyard. He wanted to have a good talk with Tian Donghua. When Tian Donghua came to the garbage disposal site, Zhang Jinghua had just returned for less than 10 minutes. Zhang Jinghua had just taken off his coat when Tianlong came in. Zhang Jinghua was suddenly scared and broke out in a cold sweat. He couldn't let Tianlong see the slightest clue. Zhang Jinghua was not stupid. At this time, he couldn't flatter Tianlong. If he let Tianlong find out that he had disloyalty, then Tianlong would definitely not let him go. Even if he let him go, what about the voodoo in his body? Fortunately, Tianlong didn't see anything. After coming in, he nodded to Zhang Jinghua as a greeting and hurried to the room where the Sun family's people were. Not long after, Tianlong came out again and walked to Tian Donghua's room. Yang Ming and Wang Renping came to Tianlong's villa in the suburbs at 11 o'clock. This was the land of a village near Donghai. Because it was an illegal building, there was no formal title deed. That was to say, it was impossible to find out who the owner of the villa here was through official means. Tianlong must have put a lot of thought into such a secretive place. Because Yang Ming was not familiar with the terrain of Donghai, he simply asked Wang Renping to drive. Anyway, Wang Renping was also an experienced driver. Besides, he didn't dare to have any other thoughts at the moment. Yang Ming could still trust him. It's right in front. Wang Renping parked the car in the outdoor parking space of the community, then pointed to a luxurious villa residence not far away. Yang Ming nodded. Although there was no property right on this piece of land, the villas and residences that were built were extremely luxurious. Presumably, they were all powerful people, so they didn't take the property rights seriously. With Tianlong's status in Donghai, whoever wanted to tear down his house really had to consider whether they had enough strength. Inside the villa, the lights were still on. It seemed that the people in the house were not resting. Yang Ming needed to use his special ability to observe the movement in the villa before making a detailed action plan. Although Yang Ming also knew that sometimes it was not a good thing to rely too much on his own special ability. If one day this special ability disappeared, or this magical pair of glasses was taken back, then Yang Ming would have nothing to rely on. But in some cases, it couldn't be used. For example, if Yang Ming didn't use his special ability to observe the terrain but directly broke into the villa. Although there was Wang Renping's previous introduction, the terrain was dead, but the people were alive. No one could guarantee what the people inside were doing in what direction. Therefore, if he broke in before, there was only a 50% chance of success. Now, it became a 100% chance of success. Mr. Yang, do you want me to go down first and find out what's going on? I know the bodyguards outside. Wang Renping saw that Yang Ming didn't speak and sat there thinking about something, so he volunteered to ask. No need. Yang Ming waved his hand and sighed. Tianlong is not here. After Wang Renping stopped the car, Yang Ming began to use his special ability to check the movement in Tianlong's villa. In the villa's courtyard, 2 black-shirt bodyguards were patrolling, and their eyes revealed vigilance. In the hall on the first floor of the villa, there were 4 similar black-shirt bodyguards, and they were also very vigilant. It seemed that Tianlong's means of training people were very good. Tianlong was not on the first floor of the villa. Looking at the second floor of the villa, Yang Ming glanced around and found 4 black-shirt bodyguards standing there vigilantly, but there was still no sign of Tianlong. Looking at the villa's attic, there was no one. Yang Ming knew that Tianlong was not in the villa. Mr. Yang. Tianlong really lives here. Wang Renping was suddenly shocked. Although he didn't know how to judge that Tianlong was not in the villa, if Tianlong was not here, then would Yang Ming think that he was lying to him? I didn't say that he is not here, but he is not here now. Judging from the villa's tight security, Tianlong should indeed live here, but for some reason, he was not here tonight. Wang Renping listened to Yang Ming's words and breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Yang, are you sure that Tianlong is not here? I can use voodoo. Naturally, I know some things that you don't understand. Yang Ming naturally would not tell Wang Renping that he had special abilities, but he simply said a mysterious reason. I have released the voodoo to investigate, and Tianlong is not here. Oh. Wang Renping was horrified after listening to Yang Ming's words, but he did not doubt it. Previously, Yang Ming knocked down Li Baihu and Ma Chong with a raise of his hand. Wang Renping did not see clearly what method Yang Ming used. After that, when he carried Li Baihu and Ma Chong to the side room, he also carefully examined the 2 people's bodies, but he did not find any wounds or similar things. After Yang Ming's flying needle entered the body, it would immediately dissolve in the blood, so Wang Renping naturally could not see any clues. Wang Renping subconsciously thought that the 2 people were also poisoned by Yang Ming's voodoo. Wasn't the voodoo shown on TV like this? When the voodoo person raised his hand, the voodoo would fly out and shoot into the target's body, and the target would be poisoned. It's so late. Where can Tianlong go? Yang Ming was slightly disappointed. It was much easier to act at night than during the day, but he did not expect Tianlong to not be in the villa. However, Yang Ming couldn't wait until tomorrow night to act. Now, every minute was precious. Yang Ming was worried about the safety of Sun Jie and Tian Donghua, and he couldn't wait so long. Moreover, now that he had instigated everyone around Tianlong, if these people showed flaws, then all his previous efforts would be wasted. It would be difficult for him to make a move on Tianlong. Therefore, Yang Ming must deal with Tianlong as soon as possible. Wang Renping also frowned. Usually, Tianlong will stay in this villa at night and will not go out casually. Should I go in and ask? Yang Ming hesitated and nodded. Wang Renping was a trusted person around Tianlong. Now that he appeared in Tianlong's villa, the bodyguards would not suspect anything. Thinking of this, Yang Ming also agreed. Wang Renping pushed open the door and walked in the direction of the villa. As soon as he arrived at the door of the villa, the 2 bodyguards who were responsible for guarding were vigilant, but when they saw that it was Wang Renping, they were relieved. Brother Wang, you are here. I have nothing to do, so I came to look around and see if Brother Long has any orders. Wang Renping said naturally. Brother Wang, unfortunately, Brother Long just went out not long ago, said one of the black-shirt bodyguards. He had no need to hide from Wang Renping at all. In his opinion, Wang Renping was the most popular person around Tianlong. As long as Wang Renping made a phone call, he could ask about Brother Long's whereabouts. It was better for him to say it and show some hospitality. Oh. Went out. Where did he go? Asked Wang Renping casually. This, we don't know. Brother Wang, you should call Brother Long and ask him personally. We don't dare to ask these things. It is not something we can know. The black-shirt bodyguard shrugged and said apologetically. Hee, it's nothing. If this is the case, then I will go first. Wang Renping patted the black-shirt bodyguard's shoulder. Thank you for your hard work. I will talk to Brother Long some other day and give you a bonus. Thank you, Brother Wang. The black-shirt bodyguard quickly thanked him gratefully. The reason why Wang Renping said this was that he didn't want these black-shirt bodyguards to be nosy and tell Tianlong about his visit. Although it was nothing, it was still better to be careful. In this way, he promised to tell Tianlong that he would give them a bonus. If they told Tianlong that he came, it would be like asking for a bonus. No one would be so stupid. Chapter 1264. Wang Renping did not ask for any valuable clues, so he had to walk back helplessly. However, he was very careful when he left. In order to prevent the two bodyguards from seeing where he was going, Wang Renping deliberately walked around the community. Finally, he came to the place where Yang Ming parked his car. He opened the door of the front passenger seat and got in the car. How is it? In fact, Yang Ming had already known the contents of the conversation between Wang Renping and the bodyguards with his special ability and lip reading. However, in order not to show that he was too magical, Yang Ming pretended not to know. Tianlong did go out, but I don't know where he went. The two bodyguards at the door don't know either. Wang Renping shrugged helplessly and said, with their status, they naturally can't ask anything when Tianlong goes out. I expected this result. Yang Ming smiled. How can Tianlong tell these people about his plan? Yang Ming smiled faintly. Now it seems that Tianlong can't come back at night, but to be on the safe side, we can wait here, but we have to draw the curtains in the car window to avoid being accidentally seen. Although the glass of Yang Ming's car was covered with a reflective film, there were some special instruments that could penetrate the film and see the situation inside the car. Therefore, Yang Ming was going to draw the curtains in the car. These curtains were made of metal fibers, and those X-ray or infrared instruments could not penetrate them. With the curtains drawn, the interior of the BMW was like a small tent. It would not attract too much attention. Many young couples like to be lovey-dovey in the car, leading to incidents such as car door shaking, so it was not abrupt to close the curtains. Although the curtains were drawn, as long as the reversing system monitoring in the car was started, the situation on the road behind the car could be seen clearly through the camera outside the car. In this way, if Tianlong's car passed here, Wang Renping could see it at a glance. Yang Ming did not use this. Yang Ming's eyes could easily penetrate anything. This kind of metal curtain was naturally not a problem. Turning on the reversing system in the car was just for Wang Renping. In the junkyard, Tianlong walked into the room where his son, Tian Donghua, was placed under house arrest. In the afternoon, Tianlong received a call from Zhang Jinghua, saying that Tian Donghua didn't eat anything and was in a daze in the room. At that time, Tianlong was also angry, so he didn't care about him. He told Zhang Jinghua that if Tian Donghua wanted to eat, then it was fine. But no matter what, Tian Donghua was Tianlong's son after all. After Tianlong had dinner, he thought about it and felt bad. He thought that Tian Donghua hadn't eaten yet, and he was worried. Finally, he couldn't help but decide to see his son and have a heart-to-heart talk with him. He hoped that Tian Donghua could understand his approach and support him. Because Wang Renping had just left, Tianlong didn't want to trouble him anymore. Wang Renping was assigned to do everything these days. Wang Renping was also exhausted. He didn't need Wang Renping to come back and drive for him for such a small matter like visiting Tian Donghua. So Tian Long casually called 4 bodyguards. One of them drove in the direction of the junkyard. Tian Donghua was already numb at this time. When he saw Tian Long coming, he just looked up at him, then he lowered his head again and ignored him. Donghua, have you eaten dinner? Tian Long sat next to Tian Donghua and reached out to touch Tian Donghua's hair. Tian Donghua avoided it with some disgust. What does it have to do with you whether I eat or not? There is no common ground. I don't agree with what you do, so I don't bother you. You don't bother me. I can't eat now. When I am hungry, I will naturally eat. Tian Donghua didn't want to go on a hunger strike to scare Tian Long because he knew that this trick was a bit too low-level and naive. If he really went on a hunger strike, Tian Long could forcibly inject himself with nutrient solutions and glucose as long as he didn't die. Therefore, Tian Donghua wouldn't go on a hunger strike. He didn't eat now just because his heart was blocked. He didn't want to eat. On one hand, it was his father, and on the other hand, it was his friend. His father did something wrong. Tian Donghua didn't want to protect him, but he couldn't change anything, so he felt very uncomfortable. The reason why Tian Donghua didn't persuade Tian Long again was that he knew that Tian Long wouldn't listen to anything. At this moment, persuading him was equivalent to persuading him in vain. There was no meaning at all. It was better to save some words and energy. Donghua, why don't you understand your father's painstaking efforts? Tian Long looked at his son with some resentment. Think about it. If I didn't do it for you, why would I do so many things? How old am I? How many years can I work? Isn't it for you and Dongguang? Do you want to continue to work for the Sun family for a lifetime like your father after graduating from college? What's wrong with that? Tian Donghua frowned. He felt that there was a problem with his father's thinking. It was already somewhat unreasonable. How many college students don't have a job after graduation? They are very happy to find a job cleaning toilets. At least I have something to do after graduation, and I will be put in an important position. What's wrong with that? Even if you are put in an important position, you have to act according to the Sun family's wishes. Because they are always the boss. No matter how powerful you are, your status is given to you by the Sun family. Don't think that you are above everyone else and only one person below you. Everyone in the group respects you like a master. However, if the Sun family doesn't like you one day, they can make you become nothing with just a word. They can make you lose everything and fall from your high position. Tian Long snorted and said, have you thought about this? If we do it well and can't find fault, how can the Sun family find trouble with us? Tian Donghua naturally didn't agree with Tian Long's theory. Although it couldn't be said that Tian Long's theory was wrong, according to Tian Long's meaning, all the people around the boss were afraid that the boss would demote them, so they took the initiative to replace the boss. Then, wouldn't the world be in chaos? Even so, there are accidents in everything. Who can guarantee that you won't make any mistakes? Tian Long said, and with your brother's character, he doesn't even know when he offends people. I heard that he has offended Sun Jiwei of the Sun family. When Sun Jiwei is in power, can he still have a good outcome? Maybe you will be implicated. What Tian Long said was true. Not only Tian Dongguang, but even Tian Donghua himself had a feud with Sun Jiwei. However, in his opinion, Sun Jiwei was a hopeless case. Sun Hongjun couldn't hand over his family business to him. The most likely person to be promoted was Sun Jie. Sun Jie was a reasonable person. She wouldn't make things difficult for Tian Donghua just because he had a feud with Sun Jiwei. What's more, with the relationship between Sun Jie and Yang Ming, wouldn't Yang Ming have the final say in the Sun family in the future? Who was Yang Ming? He was his own good brother. Would Yang Ming treat him badly? So if it were someone else, they might really be persuaded by Tian Long, but Tian Donghua wasn't tempted. He didn't think that what Tian Long said would come true. He just thought that Tian Long was an alarmist. Then after I graduate, it's fine if I don't work for the Sun family. It's not a big deal, said Tian Donghua. Tian Long listened to Tian Donghua's words and was suddenly speechless. The two people had different viewpoints. It was impossible to unify them. Even if Tian Long said until his throat was broken, Tian Donghua would not do anything. Thinking of this, Tian Long sighed in disappointment. Zhang Jinghua was afraid that Tian Long would see some clues, so he didn't dare to speak more. He stood aside in fear and trepidation. He couldn't help but laugh in his heart when he heard what Tian Long said. At this time, he was still persuading his son to go with him to the Sun family. His son was still the most observant. He didn't blindly participate with his father. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died in the end. Zhang Jinghua laughed in his heart. In his opinion, Tian Long and Yang Ming weren't on the same level at all. Yang Ming could kill two people with a raise of his hand. He didn't even see how Yang Ming attacked, and the two people were dead. However, Tian Long's means were nothing more than shouting and threatening. In contrast, there was nothing terrifying about it. But this couldn't be said. Although Zhang Jinghua believed that Yang Ming would definitely win, the night before dawn still had to be pretended. Brother Long, have you eaten dinner? Should I go and get something to eat? Zhang Jinghua asked carefully. Go ahead. Get some wine and dishes. Tian Long didn't eat anything at all before. He had been thinking about Tian Donghua. Now that Zhang Jinghua said this, he was a little hungry. He could take this opportunity to eat with his son. Maybe the two of them could ease their current relationship. After Zhang Jinghua listened to Tian Long's words, he hurriedly ran out to get the wine and dishes. He felt a little uncomfortable standing next to Tian Long. He was afraid that Tian Long would find some flaws. What a good opportunity this was. Zhang Jinghua couldn't help but sigh. If he had Yang Ming's voodoo, he could directly put it in Tian Long's wine and dishes. This would also save Yang Ming the trouble of looking for Tian Long. When Tian Long was poisoned, wouldn't he be obedient? However, since Yang Ming ordered them not to intervene, they shouldn't be nosy. Zhang Jinghua couldn't take the initiative to poison Tian Long. He didn't know whether Yang Ming wanted to keep Tian Long alive, so he didn't meddle. He just walked out of the junkyard, got in his Toyota sedan, and drove to the nearby area to buy food. The location of this junkyard was an empty suburb. There were no buildings or residences nearby, let alone places like restaurants. So, if they wanted to buy food, they could only go to the city. Every day, when it was time to eat, Zhang Jinghua sent his men to buy some food back. He also bought some food at night. There were still some left, but because it was early spring, the weather was very cold, so now it was cold. If this kind of thing was served to Tian Long would definitely not be happy. Anyway, it was the last night to serve him, so Zhang Jinghua wasn't afraid of trouble. He personally drove to prepare. There was an Ivy Hotel nearby. It was at the suburban road intersection. It provided food and lodging for passing truck drivers. It was open 24 hours. The taste of the food was good. Zhang Jinghua ordered food in this house every day. He ordered a few stir-fried dishes and a platter for Tian Long. He also ordered a few pounds of dumplings and oil cakes. After Zhang Jinghua packed them, he hurried back. Looking at the steaming food on the table, Tian Long's appetite was big. After praising Zhang Jinghua, he called Tian Donghua over to eat. Tian Donghua was also hungry this time, so he didn't refuse. Although the father and son had different ideas, they still had to eat. It wasn't worth it to starve himself. What's more, Tian Donghua didn't eat before because he was angry. He didn't mean to go on a hunger strike. The father and son ate in silence. In the beginning, Tian Long looked at Tian Donghua's dull appearance, so he didn't say anything. However, after a few glasses of beer, he unknowingly opened his mouth and began to nag and brainwash Tian Donghua. Donghua, have you thought about it? The Sun family's industry has become our Tian family's. How badass will you be in Donghai in the future? Although the current Tian family's young master is also very badass, compared to that, you will reach a new height. Tian Long said, for example, last time, because of a girl, you fought with others and beat them up. Although nothing happened to you, didn't you have to transfer to another school? But now it's different. If you beat them up, you only have to pay them some money at most. You don't have to transfer to another school. This is the power of the Sun family in Donghai. Tian Donghua snorted. If it was a year ago, maybe Tian Donghua would be tempted. However, in this year, Tian Donghua had matured a lot. He felt that he was really naive before. Especially after being with Wang Shui, Tian Donghua had opened up a lot of things. Therefore, Tian Donghua was indifferent to Tian Long's temptation. He raised his head and looked at Tian Long blankly. Then, he said, I'm not interested. When I was young and frivolous, I just fought. Now, it's a stupid behavior. Tian Long was choked, but there was no way. He thought that Tian Donghua would be interested in what he said, but Tian Donghua had such a reaction. Tian Donghua replied to him with a sentence. Even if it's for your brother, I have to go further. You look at Tian Dongguang. He is so old, but he is still uncertain. He is exactly like a prodigal young master. If your father's ability is not bigger, can he clean up after him? Said Tian Long, you don't have to find excuses for your own ambition. If you are an ordinary person, Tian Dongguang can't be as domineering as he is now. Tian Donghua said faintly. Humph. Even if I have ambition, so what? You and I are father and son. This can't be changed and chosen. It doesn't matter if you don't support me. Wait a few years, and you will figure it out. Tian Long was really helpless because of Tian Donghua. He slammed the table and shouted, I have now achieved great things. Even if you don't agree with my approach, so what? Tian Donghua didn't say anything. The two people had no common language now. It was useless to say anything, so Tian Donghua chose to be silent and continued to bury himself in the food in front of him. Just when Tian Long was impassioned and felt that he was insufferably arrogant, he didn't know that he had been abandoned by the behind-the-scenes boss. After the behind-the-scenes boss saw that Chu Daming and Lu Chan were exposed in advance, he had no hope for Tian Long. He even killed Sui Yuejin to frame Yang Ming. It could be said that Tian Long had become an abandoned chess piece. As long as there was a need, the behind-the-scenes boss would not hesitate to abandon him. But now, it seemed that Tian Long was not useful for the time being. Killing him had no direct relationship with Yang Ming, so the behind-the-scenes boss was too lazy to care about him and let him fend for himself. When Tian Long finished drinking, it was already 2:00 in the middle of the night. If he returned to the villa in a daze now, it would definitely be very uncomfortable on the road, so Tian Long decided not to go back at night. He would find a room here and sleep for the night. Jingua, is there a spare room? Clean one up for me. Tian Long instructed Zhang Jingua. Even if there was no room, Zhang Jingua had to say that there was one. Okay, Brother Long, I will prepare it. Zhang Jingua gave up his room because it was really not easy to clean up a room in a short time. He just had to find a place to sleep for the night. Yang Ming and Wang Renping waited until the middle of the night, but they did not see Tian Long's figure. Yang Ming knew that Tian Long probably would not come back. As for where he went, Yang Ming didn't want to waste time to guess. He said to Wang Renping next to him, let's rest. It seems that Tian Long can't come back. Wang Renping nodded. According to Tian Long's living habits, he must have found a place to rest nearby. It was impossible to mess around in the middle of the night. After all, Tian Long was also a person in his 50s. He couldn't afford to mess around like a young person. The next day was a sunny day. Yang Ming glanced into the villa. It was still the bodyguards. There was no shadow of Tianlong. Apparently, Tianlong did not return all night. Wang Renping was also a bodyguard, so he slept lightly and less. Not long after Yang Ming woke up, he also woke up. He looked at the courtyard of the villa. There was no Tianlong's car, so he shook his head and said, Tianlong's car is not here. It seems that he did not come back all night. Where is Tianlong usually during the day? Asked Yang Ming. Although Tianlong took over the Sun family's company, because things have not settled down, the property rights of some things have not been transferred, so Tianlong will not go to the company during the day. Instead, he will go to a hall of his former gang, which is Ma Chang's territory. Said Wang Renping. Ma Chang. If Ma Chang is missing, will Tianlong be suspicious? Yang Ming frowned after listening to Wang Renping's words. It doesn't matter. Wang Renping smiled and shook his head. Ma Chang is an old man around Tianlong. He is not young. Under normal circumstances, he will not go to the hall if it is not too important. The hall is under the charge of the second in command, Shen Miaotu. He also came yesterday and took the voodoo. He is one of us. He has a good relationship with me, so he should be able to distinguish between sides. Chapter 1265. Yang Ming nodded. That's good. As long as Tianlong doesn't suspect anything, we can settle him today. Yang Ming had some impressions of this Shen Miaotu. Last night, when Wang Renping gave him the medicine, he called his name. Yang Ming also deliberately observed these people yesterday, so his impression of Shen Miaotu was relatively clear. This was a middle-aged man who was not very old. In fact, it could not be said that he was middle-aged. It seemed that he should be in his early 30s, 1 or 2 years older than Wang Renping. When taking the voodoo yesterday, Shen Miaotu was obviously very obedient. He glanced at Wang Renping and saw Wang Renping nodding to him. He took the voodoo without saying anything. Although it could not be said that this Shen Miaotu was obedient to Wang Renping, after all, there were the examples of Li Baihu and Ma Chang, but it could also indirectly show that this Shen Miaotu was actually a more obedient person. Tianlong usually arrives at the hall around 7:30 every day. Now it is 6:30. There is still an hour. We can eat some breakfast and prepare first, said Wang Renping. Okay. Yang Ming responded and immediately started the car. Call Zhang Jinghua and ask him about the situation of the Sun family and Tian Donghua. Okay. Wang Renping nodded, then took out the phone and dialed Zhang Jinghua's phone number. Soon, the phone was connected, and Zhang Jinghua's voice came over. Brother Wang, hello. What can I do for you? In the past, Wang Renping was a popular person around Yang Ming. Now, Zhang Jinghua naturally regarded Wang Renping as a popular person around Yang Ming, so his attitude was as respectful as ever. Jinghua, how are Tian Donghua and the Sun family? Is there anything wrong? Asked Wang Renping. No, Brother Long came here yesterday and saw the people of the Sun family. He quarreled with them for a while and then went to see young Master Tian. It seemed that he was also quarreling with young Master Tian. Brother Long seemed to be trying to persuade him, but young Master Tian and Brother Long had different views. They parted on bad terms. After eating something, they went to sleep. Zhang Jinghua replied truthfully. Oh. Wang Renping frowned after listening to Zhang Jinghua's words. What did you say? You said Tianlong went to your place yesterday? And spent the night at your place? Yeah. What's wrong, Brother Wang? Zhang Jinghua wondered why Wang Renping's reaction was so big. Nothing. If I knew in advance. Wang Renping sighed and did not continue. Ah. Didn't Brother Yang tell us not to interfere with Brother Long's matters? I just wanted to watch from the side. Zhang Jinghua quickly explained, so I thought about it and didn't call you. Forget it. I don't blame you. Wang Renping said, Tianlong left? He just left. Zhang Jingguo was relieved when he saw that Wang Renping was not angry. Okay, I got it. Wang Renping hung up the phone after he finished. Yang Ming had probably learned the whole story from Wang Renping's words. Tianlong must have gone to Zhang Jingguo's place yesterday, so he was not in the villa. Brother Yang, Tianlong went to Zhang Jingguo's place yesterday. We miscalculated. Wang Renping said with some regret, if we knew in advance last night, we could catch the turtle in the jar. It is much easier to act at night when Tianlong is asleep than during the day. Hee, I have probably heard it. It doesn't matter. Since it is already like this, it is useless to complain and regret. We still have to do today's matter well. Yang Ming waved his hand and smiled. According to what you said, Shen Miaotu is one of us. He will also restrain his own men, so today's matter is still relatively easy. I hope so. Wang Renping nodded. In fact, he did not agree with Tianlong's practice of suddenly joining all the Sun family's men to embezzle the Sun family's property. Originally, as a subordinate of the Sun family treated him well, so he should be loyal. How could he do such a thing? This was also the reason why he and Yang Ming betrayed Tianlong together without any psychological pressure. Many people were not used to Tianlong's unjust practice, but they were forced by Tianlong's strong pressure and these people's greed for money. Under the powerful attack of money, they had no choice but to side with Tianlong. In most people's opinion, it was not important who the company's senior management was. Whether it was Sun Hongjun or Tianlong, as long as they did not lose their share, or even get more than before, why would these people not be happy? No one would go against money. However, what was easier to handle was that these people under Tianlong's management had a strong sense of gang consciousness. Many of them listened to their direct leader. As the saying went, the county official was not as good as the current manager. Therefore, the main leaders of these people were settled by Tianlong, and they could only follow. Let's find a porridge shop to eat breakfast. Yang Ming knew that the Sun family was fine, and he was slightly relieved. Yang Ming was most worried about the safety of the Sun family. When Tianlong went last night, he just quarreled with the Sun family and did not touch them. In other words, Tianlong still had a little conscience. At least, he did not intend to kill the Sun family in the near future. However, things were unpredictable. Who knew if Tianlong would eliminate the Sun family after he had a firm foothold? The porridge shop was found casually on the side of the road. Yang Ming parked the car directly on the side and got off with Wang Renping. Donghai's porridge shop was not the same as Songjiang's. Even if the two cities were so close, there would be some differences in the same flavor of snacks. At least in Donghai's porridge shop, there were many snacks that Songjiang did not have, and some of Songjiang's popular snacks could not be seen here. Yang Ming was not a picky person. It was okay as long as he could fill his stomach. Wang Renping was even more so. The two casually ordered 2 bowls of lean meat porridge and some small pickles and began to eat. Yang Ming? A somewhat surprised voice came. Yang Ming looked up and followed the sound. He did not expect to see an acquaintance. Sister Yang Xian? It was Sun Jie's high school classmate, Yang Xian, and her boyfriend, Wu Yunsheng. Yang Ming did not expect to meet her at the porridge shop. Yang Ming, it's great to see you. Do you know where little Jie is? Yang Xian sent Wu Yunsheng to buy food, and then she sat in the empty seat next to Yang Ming. Yang Ming and Wang Renping sat at a table for 4 people, so there were 2 empty seats next to them. Ugh. Yang Ming did not know how to answer Yang Xian's sudden question. Although he and Yang Xian were relatively familiar, Sun Jie was still under house arrest. He could not reveal it, so he smiled bitterly. I don't know. I just drove to Donghai. I haven't gone to find her yet. Little Jia called me before and said that she wanted to go back to Donghai. After she came back, she looked for me to play. It has been a few days, and she hasn't contacted me. I called her cell phone and home. It was either turned off or no one answered. I don't know if something happened to her. Yang Xian was a little anxious as she said this. Yang Ming, have you not contacted little Jia these few days? Yang Ming was relieved after listening to Yang Xian's words. Yang Xian and Wu Yunxing were also the children of Donghai's government. They often mingled in some upper-class parties. It was impossible for them not to hear about the change of owner of Donghai's largest private group, the Sun's Enterprise. There was only one possibility. The news had not spread out yet. In other words, Tianlong still had many licenses that had not been transferred to him. He could not announce it to the outside world for the time being. In this way, it was also convenient for Yang Ming to act. If Tianlong had already caused an established fact, then Yang Ming really could not do anything to him. Otherwise, the sudden disappearance of the chairman of the Sun's Enterprise who just came to power was enough to be a big news. Now it seemed that it would not cause any public opinion at all. Tianlong's matter was not announced to the public. In other words, Yang Ming took advantage of this time to get rid of Tianlong and quickly let Sun Hongjun return so that he could eliminate all the bad effects of the Sun's Enterprise. It seems that something happened to her family, right? Yang Ming could not show his emotions too much in front of Yang Xian. He smiled indifferently. It's not a big deal. I just can't turn on my phone. I can see her tomorrow. After I see her, I will look for sister Yang Xian and brother-in-law to come out for a meal. How about that? Okay. Yang Xian nodded happily. It's good that little Jia is fine. It saves me the trouble of thinking about her. And then contact me tomorrow. Yang Ming sighed in his heart. I hope that things will go well. However, Sun Jia's friend is not bad. He is still very concerned about Sun Jia. Wu Yunxing was as low-key as ever. After the meal, Yang Ming said goodbye to Yang Xian and Wu Yunxing. When they got in the car, Wang Renping said, Wu Yunxing, young Master Wu. I have seen him before. Oh. Yang Ming was a little surprised. He is a famous child in Donghai. I saw him when I sent young Master Tian Dong to a party. He is a very low-key person, said Wang Renping. Listening to Wang Renping, Yang Ming's mood was slightly relieved. He smiled. He thought that Wu Yunxing had some secrets. Recently, Yang Ming was already in a state of panic. Everyone seemed to have a problem with Yang Ming. It was no wonder that he met Alice in Europe inexplicably. Everyone was targeting him. Could this still make Yang Ming feel at ease? It was said to be a hall, but in fact, it was a nightclub. The hall and the gang was already an old tradition. Tianlong was naturally not stupid. Now that he still had a gang in this situation, wouldn't the police find a reason to attack him? Therefore, Tianlong only operated and controlled some entertainment venues, but even so, he had obtained unprecedented profits. This nightclub was planned and opened by Tianlong, so the Sun family did not have much control here. It was precisely because of this that Tianlong used it as a temporary office base. Tianlong asked the driver to park the car. Because he did not come from the villa today, he did not ask Wang Renping to pick him up. After the car was parked, Tianlong got off and walked quickly into the nightclub under the escort of 4 bodyguards. He went upstairs through the staff-only passage. Although in Donghai, Tianlong did not believe that anyone dared to find trouble with him, it was better to be safe than sorry. Who knew if there would not be loyal supporters of the Sun family who would fight with him in a desperate situation? Yang Ming and Wang Renping came to the nightclub early and observed the movements of the nightclub from a distance. After seeing Tianlong enter the nightclub, Yang Ming also started the car and parked the car closer to the nightclub. Haven't the name change procedures been completed yet? Tianlong looked at the documents in his hand and asked his office secretary impatiently. Not yet. I am asking someone to do it, but there is no result yet. The secretary was also somewhat helpless. The matter could not be done, and I was scolded. No matter how you look at it, you are a bit unlucky. Didn't I say it? It doesn't matter how much money it costs. Change the company's legal person to my name as soon as possible. Tian Long was naturally afraid of long delays. Although Sun Hongjun had signed the equity transfer letter, Tian Long could not be at ease as long as the company's legal person name was not Tian Long. The name change requires the company's original legal person and the new legal person to be present. The secretary said with difficulty, "This is a matter of principle. We have looked for people, but there is no result yet. Those agency companies just said that they would try. Damn, what if the original legal person dies?" Tian Long heard the secretary say so complicatedly and snorted. "If he dies, a death certificate and a will of attorney are required," the secretary explained. Tian Long rolled his eyes. He just complained casually and made an analogy. He did not expect the secretary to take it seriously. He waved his hand helplessly and said, "As soon as possible, tell those agency companies that money is not a problem as long as it can be done." "I will try my best, Mr. Tian." The secretary quickly said yes and carefully left Tian Long's office. "Brother Long, why don't we go all the way?" In the office, one of Tian Long's men suggested and made a beheading gesture. This person was the third in command of the nightclub, Li Xiangji. The boss of the nightclub was Ma Chang in name, but Shen Miaotu was responsible for the daily operations. Shen Miaotu frowned after listening to Li Xiangji's words. Li Xiangji did not take the voodoo, but this kid was purely a person who changed the rudder according to the wind. Shen Miaotu was not worried that Li Xiangji would dare to do anything, but his broken mouth. What kind of suggestion is this? If the Sun family's people were really killed, Yang Ming would probably not give them the antidote. He would just let them fend for themselves. Therefore, Shen Miaotu was very nervous at the moment. He was really afraid that Tian Long would adopt Li Xiangji's opinion and harm the Sun family. However, Shen Miaotu could not directly oppose Li Xiangji's opinion at the moment. It would be too obvious. It was hard to guarantee that Tian Long would not have any other ideas. Shen Miaotu looked at Tian Long nervously to see what kind of decision he could make. If Tian Long really wanted to kill the Sun family's people, then Shen Miaotu could only quickly call Yang Ming and Wang Renping for help. "Your idea is once and for all." Tian Long glanced at Li Xiangji and said faintly, "That's right." When Li Xiangji heard Tian Long praise him, he immediately showed a smile. He did not have any ability. He relied on flattery to get Tian Long's favor, so the idea he gave was bullshit. However, it is easy to kill Sun Hongjun. You tell the outside world, how did Sun Hongjun die? Tian Long glared and said, "At that time, when the police investigate the cause of Sun Hongjun's death, there will be more trouble. Maybe they will screw up all my things." "You brainless fellow, go to the side and stay there." After listening to Tian Long's words, Shen Miaotu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as Tian Long did not harm the Sun family's people, then it would be easy to handle. After a while, when Yang Ming came, everything would be solved. Li Xiangji was lectured by Tian Long until his face turned green and white. He flattened his mouth and said, "Yes, Shen Miaotu, tell me. Do you have any good ideas?" Tian Long looked at Shen Miaotu. Shen Miaotu was shocked. He quickly withdrew his thoughts and said, "Brother Long, in the current situation, we still have to follow the normal procedures. If Sun Hongjun does not appear, the people in the Industry and Commerce Bureau will not dare to change the legal person. Once this is exposed, it will be a big deal unless they don't want to do it anymore." It makes sense. Continue. Tian Long nodded and signaled Shen Miaotu to continue. Shen Miaotu's analysis was still very good. So, although Brother Long's social status is also very high, to put it bluntly, Sun Hongjun's status is higher. Who dares to offend him? Since you have used your social connections and found a lot of people, do you still expect those licensing agencies to help? Shen Miaotu waved his hand. "I think it is a waste of effort to find them." In fact, how could Tian Long not know what Shen Miaotu said? However, now it was completely a desperate attempt. There was no other way, so Tianlong could only do this. Then, do you have any other good ideas? Tianlong asked, what do you mean by following the normal means? Shen Miaotu was now completely delaying time. What he said sounded reasonable, but in fact, it was all bullshit. Even if he didn't say it, Tianlong knew it. However, Tianlong now had to fight for a glimmer of hope, so naturally, he didn't think too much and listened to Shen Miaotu's words patiently. Shen Miaotu thought, isn't it simple to follow the normal way? Isn't it just you and Sun Hongjun going to the Industry and Commerce Bureau to change the business license? You don't know such a simple thing? However, although he thought so, he couldn't say so. After saying so, it would be strange if Tianlong didn't go crazy on the spot. Brother Long, I think you still have to start with Sun Hongjun. Shen Miaotu had no choice but to continue to talk nonsense. Think of a way to persuade Sun Hongjun to go to the Industry and Commerce Bureau with you to change the legal person, but you have to be careful that he can't take the opportunity to escape or directly expose your conspiracy in the Industry and Commerce Bureau. You know, Sun Hongjun's social influence is greater than yours. At that time, you will be in a disadvantageous position. What you said is the only feasible way. Tianlong nodded. But, how can I make Sun Hongjun obedient? Chapter 1266. Shen Miaotu didn't expect Tianlong to be so anxious. Shen Miaotu just finished talking, and Tianlong asked him to think of a way, and now. Looking at Tianlong's eyes looking at him with expectation, Shen Miaotu felt a little scared. How is it? Have you thought of a way to make Sun Hongjun obedient? Tianlong stared at Shen Miaotu. This. Shen Miaotu really didn't know what to do. He was just talking nonsense to deal with Tianlong, but he didn't expect Tianlong to take it seriously. It's okay, you take your time to think. Tianlong might have found that he was too impatient, so he smiled apologetically. I am not in a hurry, Shen Miaotu breathed a sigh of relief and thought, as long as you don't rush me at this time, you don't have to rush me in this life. When Yang Ming comes, you won't have a chance to ask me again. Yang Ming and Wang Renping naturally didn't know that Tianlong was freaking out about the group's transfer of ownership. After the two saw Tianlong enter the nightclub, they began to plan to implement the plan. Mr. Yang, are we going in now? Wang Renping knew that since they were already here today, they would have to go in sooner or later, so it was better to go in earlier than later. Yang Ming nodded. His point of view was the same as Wang Renping's. Since they were here, they shouldn't drag it out. Solving it as soon as possible was the way to go. Yang Ming took out a pair of large sunglasses from the back of the car and put them on his face. Then he said to Wang Renping, "Take me in a while." No problem. Wang Renping nodded. In fact, it didn't matter if Yang Ming didn't disguise himself. In this nightclub, except for Tianlong and Shen Miaotu who knew Yang Ming, no one else had seen Yang Ming before. However, since Yang Ming chose to disguise himself, he also held the attitude that there was no harm in being careful and avoiding complications. The two people got out of the car together. Yang Ming naturally walked side by side with Wang Renping toward the entrance of the nightclub. Brother Wang. The security guards at the door naturally knew Wang Renping. When they saw Wang Renping coming over, they hurriedly greeted him. Wang Renping nodded casually. His footsteps didn't stop at all as he walked inside. Because Yang Ming came with Wang Renping, the security guard naturally wouldn't go up and ask questions. Besides, this was an entertainment venue, and it was open to the public. You couldn't possibly not let the guests in, right? Yang Ming had long predicted the smoothness of the matter. After all, Wang Renping's identity and status were there. He was a capable person under Tianlong, just like the status of his own subordinates, Bao Sanli and Ho Zhenhan. Therefore, she didn't have to worry about anything when he brought her in. The two of them successfully got into the elevator and went up to the 13th floor of Tianlong's office. Generally speaking, Shen Miaotu should be with Tianlong. It is possible that Li Xiangji is also there. Wang Renping said after the elevator door closed. Who is Li Xiangji? Asked Yang Ming. Li Xiangji is the third in command of the nightclub, but he is just a scumbag. There is nothing to be afraid of. I didn't call him yesterday because this kid is too cowardly. I was afraid that he would take things too hard after eating the voodoo. He would spill the beans when he goes back, said Wang Renping. Yang Ming nodded. People with this kind of character were rare, especially those who could sit in the position of the vice president of the nightclub. However, he probably belonged to the group of bootlickers. There were not many people taking the internal elevator. Only the management staff could take it, so no one else called for the elevator along the way. It went smoothly from the first floor to the 13th floor without stopping in the middle. A dong sounded, and the elevator stopped at the 13th floor. Let's go. Yang Ming glanced at Wang Renping and smiled faintly. Along the way, Wang Renping was very calm. However, when they got off the elevator, Yang Ming obviously noticed that Wang Renping seemed to be a little nervous, so he patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. This was no wonder. After all, Tian Long had always been very strong in Wang Renping's heart. Although Yang Ming was stronger now, Wang Renping would inevitably have psychological pressure if he stood with Yang Ming to deal with Tian Long. Nothing. Wang Renping took a deep breath and shrugged. It could be seen that he quickly adjusted his emotions. Which one is Tian Long's office? Asked Yang Ming as he looked at the deep corridor. There was no one in the corridor. Obviously, this was the location of the nightclub's high-level office. However, there was no bodyguard or security guard in the large corridor, which made Yang Ming a little surprised. Perhaps Tian Long thought that no one would dare to make trouble in his territory. The innermost one is on the right. Wang Renping pointed to the front and said to Yang Ming. Just as Yang Ming asked, Yang Ming also began to check the rooms in the corridor with his special ability. Sure enough, as Wang Renping said, Tian Long was in the room on the right at the end of the corridor. There were two other people in the room. One was Shen Miaotu, whom he saw yesterday, and the other man who looked a little wretched was probably Li Xiangji, whom Wang Renping mentioned. Yang Ming's guess was not wrong. There was no security guard in this corridor. First, the nightclub had never had this rule. Second, Tian Long was too arrogant. He thought that there were countless security guards in this nightclub, and no one dared to make trouble here. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door of Tian Long's office. Tian Long was placing his hopes on Shen Miaotu at the moment, and his mind was not elsewhere at all. He said casually, "Please come in." Wang Renping pushed the door open and entered Tian Long's office. "Oh, it's Renping. You are here." Tian Long saw that the person who came was Wang Renping and nodded. "It just so happens that we are discussing something. You should also come and study it together." "Oh? What is it?" Wang Renping was sent in by Yang Ming to be the vanguard. The purpose was to control Li Xiangji. Although Li Xiangji was not a problem, a cornered dog would jump over the wall. Yang Ming was afraid that he would be a hindrance, so he asked Wang Renping to come in and send him away first. "It's like this." Tian Long raised his hand, glanced at Li Xiangji, and said, "You should say it." Li Xiangji was eager to have such an opportunity to show off himself. He stuck out his butt and quickly came to Wang Renping. He said flatteringly, "Brother Wang, things are like this. Isn't this the case? Our brother Long has now gotten the Sun family's industry." Wang Renping nodded and waited for him to continue. "But these industries are under the name of the old fart, Sun Hongjun. When we go to transfer the ownership, they say that Sun Hongjun, the old chicken lamp, must be present in person." Li Xiangji said, "This has put Brother Shen and me in a difficult situation. We don't know what to do." "Oh, it is indeed a problem." Wang Renping agreed and hummed. "Yeah, Brother Shen has come up with a good idea." Not to be outdone, Li Xiangji continued, "What Brother Shen means is, since Sun Hongjun, that old chicken lantern, must be present, then we can let him go with Brother Long. But how can we guarantee that Sun Hongjun will be obedient and not cause trouble? Oh, I was wondering what it was. Wang Renping suddenly grinned after listening. Why, Renping? Do you have a good idea? Tian Long was delighted after listening to Wang Renping's words. He thought that Wang Renping had a way. Can you persuade Sun Hongjun to transfer the ownership obediently? I can't, but someone can. Wang Renping said somewhat strangely. Who? Who is it? Tian Long said anxiously, who has such a great ability? I brought this person to you today, Brother Long. Wang Renping smiled and made an inviting gesture. Just as Tian Long was waiting for this capable person to come in with joy, the smile on his face suddenly froze. Because he was too familiar with the person who came in. Mr. Tian, how have you been? Yang Ming walked into Tian Long's office and looked at Tian Long with a smile as if he came to visit an old friend that he had not seen for many years. Yang Ming? Tian Long frowned. He was not stupid. He immediately realized that something seemed to be wrong. Why did Wang Renping bring Yang Ming? Renping, what do you mean? Nothing, Brother Long. I have been very unhappy with you for a long time. After Wang Renping said a very classic sentence, he took the opportunity to knock out Li Xiangji, who was at a loss, with a punch. This Li Xiangji was originally a timid guy, and the sudden change made him at a loss, so just as he was at a loss, he unknowingly fainted. Tian Long's face suddenly changed. He did not expect that the most trusted person around him would mix with Yang Ming. This was what he did not expect, and he did not think of it at all. However, Tian Long's eyes glanced slightly, and he saw that Shen Miaotu was pulling out a gun from his waist. His heart was set. He saw that Yang Ming and Wang Renping both came in empty-handed, and their waists were not bulging. Naturally, they did not bring any weapons. Miaotu, kill them. Tian Long snorted and ordered. Raise your hands, or I will kill you with one shot. Shen Miaotu's gloomy voice sounded. Tian Long's heart was relieved, and he looked at Yang Ming and Wang Renping mockingly. He thought, you two idiots and idiots. Don't you know that I have a gun? Aren't you looking for death by breaking in like this? Tian Long wanted to see Yang Ming and Wang Renping's embarrassed appearance, but he did not see Yang Ming and Wang Renping raise their hands. He suddenly felt a little strange. Why don't you raise your hands and squat aside with your head in your hands? Aren't you afraid of being shot? Not afraid. Yang Ming glanced at Tian Long and said with a weird expression. What? Tian Long did not hear clearly. He thought, is this Yang Ming crazy? No matter how badass you are, you can't be invulnerable, right? Brother Long, you are mistaken. Wang Renping pointed behind Tian Long sympathetically. Tian Long may have realized that things seemed to be wrong. When he turned around, he found that the person Shen Miaotu's black muzzle pointed at was actually him. Brother Long, I'm sorry. I have tolerated you for a long time, said Shen Miaotu faintly. Tian Long's mood from the ridicule and arrogance just now suddenly fell to the bottom. He couldn't believe the facts in front of him. He just saw that Yang Ming and Wang Renping were actually together. Although he was shocked, he was very dismissive of the way they dared to challenge him alone. Not to mention that Shen Miaotu was also a master who was not inferior to Wang Renping, not to mention that Shen Miaotu had a gun in his hand. There were hundreds of security guards in this nightclub. With an order, even if no one spat, they could drown the two of them, so Tian Long didn't take it seriously at all. But now, the gap was a bit too big. Not only did Wang Renping and Yang Ming mix together, but even Shen Miaotu was actually with Yang Ming, pointing a gun at Tian Long. For a time, Tian Long had a feeling of being betrayed. He finally understood how Sun Hongjun felt when Wang Renping pointed a gun at him. It was a kind of helplessness, bitterness, and simply impossible to guard against. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming did this, Tian Long roughly knew that there was only the method of coercion and bribery. Didn't I use this method to deal with the people around Sun Hongjun? Yang Ming, it seems that I have underestimated you. Tianlong took a deep breath and stared at Yang Ming. He was about to spit fire. You played this trick well. It is exactly the same as my original approach. You still know that you played a trick? Yang Ming sat down comfortably on the big sofa at the side and looked at Tianlong. You tell me. How should I deal with you? What's wrong with playing a trick? Tianlong said coldly, do you think you are upholding justice? Or enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Why do I feel that you don't feel that you have done something wrong, but it seems that I am meddling? Yang Ming found it funny after listening to Tianlong's words. I did something wrong? What did I do wrong? Tianlong suddenly laughed. Yang Ming, you stand on the Sun family's side. Naturally, you feel that I did something wrong, but what did I do wrong? More than half of Sun Hongjuan's businesses were built with me, but what did I get in the end? When did he ever think about giving me a part of his big industry? He didn't. He didn't even have this idea at all. He thought that he deserved all this. Why? 2 people contributed, but only he got the benefits. Didn't I give you shares? Yang Ming looked at the crazy Tianlong and said faintly. Give me shares? You really have the nerve to say that. He only gave me 5% of the shares of such a big group. Tianlong said, how much does he have? 60%. Sun Hongjun is fine, but he wants to leave a big foundation to a woman. He wants me to bow down to Sun Jie. Humph. Even if I don't think for myself, I have to think for Donghua and Dongguang. I am a fucking dog of the Sun family. I don't want them to repeat my mistakes. Dog? Yang Ming said disapprovingly, is Sun Hongjun not good enough to you? When did he treat you as a dog? He didn't, but what about in the future? After Sun Jia and Sun Jiwei are in power, do you want me to listen to the words of 2 little kids? Tianlong waved his hand angrily. Why? You are looking for an excuse for what you have done. Yang Ming looked at the unreasonable Tianlong and shook his head. Does Tian Donghua have the same idea as you? Him? Humph, if he didn't persuade me not to do anything to you again and again, do you think you still have the chance to stand here and talk to me? Tianlong heard Yang Ming's question and snorted. He will understand my pains sooner or later. Yang Ming suddenly found it funny. This Tianlong is really shameless. With his means, can he deal with me? He really doesn't feel pain when he speaks. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Yang Ming looked at Tianlong. If you really care about Tian Donghua's opinion, can you still put him under house arrest? Really? Tianlong's mouth suddenly showed a strange sneer. Then his right arm suddenly burst out, grabbed the gun in Shinmiaotu's hand, and squeezed it hard. Tianlong let go, but Shinmiaotu was shocked and subconsciously pulled the trigger. Bang! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the pistol exploded. Half of Shinmiaotu's palm had been blown off. This unforeseen event was so sudden that even Yang Ming was caught off guard. However, Yang Ming clearly saw the strange scene just now. Tianlong actually flattened the gun barrel in Shinmiaotu's hand, and then quickly let go of his hand. However, the panicked Shinmiaotu obviously did not notice this. He subconsciously thought that Tianlong was going to take the gun to deal with him, so he pulled the trigger. Unfortunately, half of his palm had been blasted off, and blood was dripping everywhere. It was a terrifying sight. Yang Ming, Yang Ming. You are so naive. Do you think that you can deal with me by bribing a few waists? Tianlong laughed presumptuously, and the muscles on his body also bulged with the laughter. The people present were not only Shinmiaotu and Wang Renping. Even Yang Ming was shocked. Is this Tianlong still a human? His thwart training kung fu has actually reached such a level? However, in the face of such a change, Yang Ming did not have the slightest timidity and confusion. His hand shook slightly, and a flying needle had already fallen into Yang Ming's hand. Just as Tianlong opened his arms to catch Yang Ming, the flying needle in Yang Ming's hand was also thrown at Tianlong paw. The flying needle hit Tianlong's neck, but it fell to the ground without any harm to Tianlong. Kid, you also know how to use concealed weapons? It's not simple, right? Tianlong did not expect that Yang Ming actually knew how to throw concealed weapons. He secretly felt lucky in his heart. If I didn't use my martial arts in advance because of anger, I'm afraid that I would have fallen into this kid's trap. Previously, he still wanted to play with Yang Ming, but now he put it away. It seems that this kid is really capable. Thinking of this, Tianlong's eyes became redder, and the muscles on his body bulged even more. It was even possible that his shirt would burst. Yang Ming was really a little stunned at this moment. His tried and tested flying needles actually had no effect on Tianlong. It didn't even penetrate Tianlong's skin, let alone his acupoints. Yang Ming was confident that the strength of his flying needles was very strong. Not to mention human skin, even wood and glass could be easily penetrated by it. However, a strange thing happened in front of him. His flying needle was actually blocked and fell to the ground. Chapter 1267. Seeing that Yang Ming and the others were stunned, Tianlong couldn't help but smile proudly. Humph, you still don't know, right? I was the most outstanding disciple of Shaolin Temple. Do you think you can cause trouble for me just because you know some small tricks? You are really overestimating yourself. Shaolin Temple? Disciple? Yang Ming was slightly stunned, and he immediately understood in his mind. Originally, he thought that this Tianlong also practiced some evil martial arts similar to Elder Yu and made himself invulnerable, but now he understood after listening to Tianlong Shaolin Temple's thwart kung fu was the best in the world. The golden bell shield and iron mantle all originated from there. It seemed that Tianlong had received the true teachings and had trained his skin and flesh to be extremely hard. Speaking of Shaolin Temple's golden bell shield and iron mantle, many people thought that it was just a legend in wuxia novels. In fact, it didn't exist, but Yang Ming knew that these kung fu really existed. After coming into contact with the assassin world, Yang Ming had dabbled a little in various sects kung fu in the world. Naturally, he also knew several kung fu of Shaolin Temple. In fact, whether it was iron mantle, golden bell shield, or iron palm, these weren't magical. They were all using Chinese medicine to change the person's muscles and bones. Then, with the addition of thousands of hammering, it made the body extremely hard. This was the same as when Yang Ming practiced boxing. Fang Tian gave him Chinese medicine to soak his hands and feet. It was to strengthen the body through pharmacology. Yang Ming also guessed at the time that this Chinese medicine might have evolved from Shaolin Temple's golden bell shield, iron mantle, or iron palm. However, Yang Ming's practice time was still short, and it only played the role of increasing the strength of his boxing. It was impossible to be like those who practiced since childhood, who practiced until they were invulnerable. Now it seemed that Tianlong was such a person. This was what Yang Ming didn't expect. Yang Ming glanced at Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu from the corner of his eyes. He saw that both of them were also horrified and inexplicable. He knew that Tianlong usually hid it deeply. Even Wang Renping, who had followed him for 10 years, didn't know that he had a unique skill. Logically speaking, with Tianlong's skills, he didn't need bodyguards at all, but he still left a group of bodyguards in front and behind to protect him. This could only be said to be a cover-up. Perhaps even Sun Hongjun didn't know that Tianlong had such a trick up his sleeve. Indeed, no one knew the history of Tianlong being a disciple of Shaolin when he was young. Even Sun Hongjun and Wang Renping didn't know about it. They only knew that he had a good relationship with several Shaolin Temple disciples. When Wang Renping was sent to train, the instructor who trained him was from Shaolin. Wang Renping's kung fu was mostly from Shaolin, but it definitely did not involve the golden bell shield and iron mantle. What they learned was some actual combat. Even so, Wang Renping never thought that Tianlong was actually such a Shaolin master. He originally thought that these instructors were only invited by Tianlong at a high price to guide their kung fu. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Tianlong and these Shaolin Temple disciples' instructors had a deep relationship. At least, they should be brothers. Yang Ming, you didn't expect it, right? Tianlong saw that the people present were shocked, and he was even more complacent. He liked this feeling of having everything under control. I know that you have some kung fu, and I know your position in Songjiang. It's not a big deal to use money to win over a few of my men, but you want to use these few wastes to deal with me. You are really too whimsical. Yang Ming looked at Tianlong coldly, but he wasn't angry. He seemed to be angry and couldn't speak. Indeed, Yang Ming underestimated Tianlong's strength. This was the biggest mistake made by the failure of this operation. He never thought that a helper around Sun Hongjun actually had such a terrifying origin. This was something that Wang Renping and Tian Donghua had never mentioned before. Tian Donghua and Tian Dongguang didn't know that Tianlong had a secret technique. This was certain. Because if Tian Dongguang really knew that his father was so powerful, he wouldn't be bothering to ask Wang Renping to be his disciple. Wouldn't it be more awesome to practice Shaolin Kung Fu with his father directly? For this kind of secret technique that was passed down through the ages, although Yang Ming didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that these Kung Fu were definitely very powerful. He wasn't an opponent. Perhaps even if his master, Fang Tian, came in person, it was impossible to get any benefits. Seeing that Yang Ming didn't speak and was sulking there, Tianlong was even more refreshed. Why aren't you awesome? Weren't you awesome just now? Is there anyone who can persuade Sun Hongjun to be obedient? Well, then you go and persuade him for me. I will tie you up and accompany him. As Tianlong spoke, he reached out and grabbed Yang Ming. Unexpectedly, Yang Ming didn't resist this time, but he was obediently caught by Tianlong and Tianlong was a bit surprised. Yang Ming didn't struggle, but immediately, he figured it out. I'm too strong. Yang Ming's struggle is asking for trouble. It's better to be captured. It seems that you are still very self-aware. You know to be obedient. Humph. Yang Ming snorted and didn't respond. Tianlong was more convinced that Yang Ming knew that he couldn't beat him, so he became so obedient. Tianlong was suddenly overjoyed. He took out a leather rope from nowhere and tied Yang Ming's hands together. Yang Ming also let Tianlong tie him together. After tying up Yang Ming, Tianlong tied up Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu. The two simply didn't struggle. Wang Renping was also a peripheral Shaolin sect disciple. He knew how terrifying Tianlong's kung fu was. He wouldn't be Tianlong's opponent at all, so Wang Renping could only obediently be captured. Otherwise, he would be asking for trouble. Humph. I will deal with you two traitors when I come back. Tianlong picked up Yang Ming from behind and walked to the door of the office. Leaving Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu in the office, he didn't bother with them. Tianlong's heart was about to explode with joy. Originally, he thought that after Tian Donghua told Yang Ming that he was going to deal with Yang Ming wouldn't come to Donghai easily. Even if he came to Donghai, he might come with the police. Then, Tianlong really had no way to deal with him. No matter how badass Tianlong was, it was impossible to openly go against the police, right? That was purely looking for death. Therefore, Tianlong felt that there was no hope in this matter. He could only live up to the efforts of the behind-the-scenes boss, but he didn't expect a godsend opportunity. This guy, Yang Ming, is too arrogant and overconfident. He bribed Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu, and he was delusional to think that he could deal with me. In the end, isn't he still caught by me? It's really a case of searching high and low for something, but finding it without any effort. It was so easy to catch Yang Ming. This was what Tianlong didn't expect. But fortunately, he always had a backup plan. Tianlong didn't tell anyone that he was a disciple of Shaolin. He didn't even mention it to his sons, Tian Donghua and Tian Dongguang. This was a secret in his heart. When he was 5 years old, because of a drought in his hometown, his parents died one after another, so Tianlong was alone in a foreign place. Fortunately, he was adopted by a kind person in Shaolin Temple at that time and became a Shaolin disciple. Because Tianlong was talented and diligent, more than 10 years later, Tianlong actually practiced the Shaolin's Golden Bell Shield. He had a body of bronze muscles and iron bones. After learning the skill, he finally had to go down the mountain after passing the 18 bronze men array. After going down the mountain, Tianlong found that the outside world had changed. It had become a place of debauchery. Having martial arts had no practical significance at all. So, after going north, he began to do small business. However, relying on his own martial arts, he quickly mixed in a place. Of course, at that time, Tianlong obeyed the teachings of Shaolin. He didn't bully others with his own martial arts. Only when he was bullied by others, he fought back. However, he didn't use Shaolin's secret arts, but some ordinary martial arts. He didn't want to hurt others. He just gave a little punishment. Therefore, many people who were taught a lesson by him only knew that Tianlong's martial arts were very powerful, but they never knew his master and origin. Later, Tianlong met Sun Hongjun. The two people assisted each other and built a big business. Tianlong's heart, from the previous simple and kind, became blinded by greed and gradually blackened. Until now, he was blinded by utilitarianism and did treacherous things. In the big dye vat of debauchery, Tianlong lost himself and forgot the oath when he went down the mountain in Shaolin Temple. He became an out-and-out villain. Perhaps it was because he knew that his current style didn't match that of a Shaolin disciple, or perhaps he wanted to keep a trump card. In short, he never mentioned to others that he was a Shaolin disciple. But now it seemed that Tianlong definitely wanted to keep a trump card, not because he felt that what he did was inconsistent with the purpose of Shaolin Temple. This could be seen from his boasting just now. Tianlong had already been completely corrupted by benefits. This was the secret deep in his heart, but it became an important reason for turning defeat into victory today. Tianlong had endured for so many years, and finally at the most critical moment, he used his life's knowledge. Originally, Tianlong also planned to do so. Unless it was a last resort, he would never show his Shaolin's secret arts in front of outsiders. This was something to save his life. But now, at this moment, he had to use it. Shen Miaotu pointed a gun at him, and Wang Renping and Yang Ming were eyeing him. Although at first, Tianlong wanted to use this to deter Yang Ming and others. Tianlong admitted that he wanted to show off, but then Tianlong knew how wise his decision was. Yang Ming actually knew how to throw a concealed weapon, and the direction and position of the concealed weapon made Tianlong's forehead and back shiver. The acupuncture points on the neck were the most concentrated, and the accuracy of Yang Ming's shot made Tianlong speechless. Although the flying needle couldn't enter Tianlong's body, Tianlong wasn't a person without perception. Tianlong could still feel where the flying needle was shot. When the flying needle touched Tianlong's neck, Tianlong's heart jumped out of his chest. Tianlong was also a person who practiced martial arts since childhood. How could he not know the location of the human body's acupuncture points? With Yang Ming's accuracy, if the flying needle was really pierced, then Tianlong knew that the loser lying down now would be him. Once the acupuncture point was pierced, he would temporarily lose his mobility and be controlled by Yang Ming. At that time, even if he had the power of Jin Gang, he couldn't reverse the situation. Thinking of this, Tianlong secretly felt lucky. It seems that Yang Ming dared to come to me, not because he was overestimating himself. He must have something up his sleeve. Yang Ming's flying needle skill couldn't be underestimated. Therefore, Tianlong tied Yang Ming's hands behind his back. In this way, Yang Ming couldn't do anything to harm him. Tianlong carried Yang Ming out of the office, entered the elevator, and pressed the button for the basement floor. Tianlong intended to put Yang Ming under house arrest in the abandoned junkyard. Wasn't he close to the Sun family? Well, I'll put him with the Sun family. Tian Long could lift Yang Ming with his left hand without any effort. This showed that Tian Long's muscles and bones had been trained to the top level. Yang Ming couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't be exhausted after carrying a person for so long. Even when they entered the elevator, Tian Long still carried Yang Ming, and he looked very relaxed. This showed that Tian Long's physical strength was very good. Yang Ming had to admit that Tian Long was much stronger than himself. When they came to the underground parking lot, Tian Long opened the door of a commercial car with the remote control and threw Yang Ming into the trunk. Then, he closed the trunk door and jumped into the driver's seat. Although there were security guards patrolling in the underground parking lot, they simply turned a blind eye to Tian Long carrying a person out of the car. First, it was because Tian Long was the boss here. Everyone was working under him. Who dared to ask Tian Long about things? The second point was that some of the people who played in the nightclub drank too much and made trouble or didn't pay. Such people naturally had to be dragged out to teach them a lesson. Therefore, when these security guards saw a person being dragged out, they weren't surprised. They didn't think it was a strange thing at all. Yang Ming was thrown into the trunk of the car, but he didn't say anything. Tian Long was a bit puzzled. This Yang Ming didn't look like such a person. Why didn't he resist at all? After thinking about it, there was only one explanation. That was, Yang Ming knew that he wasn't Tian Long's opponent at all. Resistance was futile, so it was better not to waste energy. This possibility was the most appropriate. Thinking of this, Tian Long was relieved. He drove the car out of the nightclub and headed in the direction of the abandoned junkyard. For Yang Ming to be able to bribe Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu, Tian Long was quite impressed. Yang Ming could do such a big thing quietly under his nose. It also showed that Yang Ming was not a simple person. No wonder Song Jiang's Bao Sanli and Ho Zhenhan followed his lead. In just 1 year, Yang Ming established his own economic empire in Songjiang. However, so what if he is great? Isn't he still caught by me? Tian Long snorted. This kid is still too inexperienced. But it is a pity. If such a talent could be used by me, it would be great. Tian Long also knew that it was impossible. He and Yang Ming were now incompatible like fire and water. He didn't expect Yang Ming to rely on him. This time, Tian Long simply didn't look for a driver to drive. Instead, he personally escorted Yang Ming to the junkyard. It was also because he felt that Yang Ming, this kid, was really terrible. If he could bribe the people around him, then his other drivers could also be bribed. Therefore, Tian Long personally drove Yang Ming. Seeing that Tian Long had returned, Zhang Jingguo was puzzled, but he still had to show it on the surface, so he quickly ran out to meet Tian Long. However, he saw Tian Long carrying a person out of the trunk of the car. Zhang Jingguo didn't feel anything at first. Tian Long regarded this place as a place where he put others under house arrest. It was not a big deal to send one more person. However, when Zhang Jingguo saw the appearance of the person in Tian Long's hand, he was suddenly shocked. The person in Tian Long's hand is actually Yang Ming? Yang Ming's plan failed? How is it possible? Zhang Jingguo couldn't believe it. The powerful Yang Ming, who could kill 2 people with a raise of his hand, actually became Tian Long's prisoner. However, the facts were in front of him. Zhang Jingguo couldn't help but believe it. Yang Ming was indeed tied behind his back with a rubber band. He was carried out of the car by Tian Long. After confirming that the person in Tian Long's hand was Yang Ming, Zhang Jingguo's heart suddenly turned cold. Yang Ming was caught. What should they do? They were forced by Yang Ming to swallow the voodoo. If something happened to Yang Ming, wouldn't they also die? Thinking of this, Zhang Jingguo almost cried. However, in front of Tian Long, he had to pretend to smile. There was no other way. If Tian Long knew that he had taken refuge with Yang Ming, then there would be no good outcome. Perhaps he would be executed by Tian Long now. Therefore, Zhang Jingguo could only smile and greet him, "Brother Long, why are you back again? This is... Of course, Zhang Jinghua had to pretend that he didn't know Yang Ming. Because before yesterday, he didn't know who Yang Ming was. At this time, if he exposed a flaw, then he would be dead. This is the Yang Ming I mentioned before. Lock him up with the Sun family. As Tian Long said this, he threw Yang Ming to the ground and instructed Zhang Jinghua. Yes, Brother Long. Zhang Jinghua pulled Yang Ming up from the ground and responded quickly. However, he could only smile bitterly in his heart. After Tian Long left, I will ask Yang Ming what is going on. What is going on? What is going on here? But no matter what, I'm in a favorable position. Yang Ming is under my watch. I can get the antidote first. As for the others, it wasn't something Zhang Jinghua could worry about, so Zhang Jinghua could only take care of himself first. Let's go. Zhang Jinghua pushed Yang Ming and entered the door of the junkyard. He didn't dare to be too harsh. That would offend Yang Ming, but he didn't dare to be too gentle. That would arouse Tian Long's suspicion. Zhang Jinghua was really in a dilemma. But fortunately, Yang Ming didn't seem to know him at all. He didn't respond to his shouts. He stood up very obediently and followed Zhang Jinghua into the junkyard. Chapter 1268. Zhang Jinghua wanted to ask Yang Ming what he was doing, but Tian Long was watching from behind. He couldn't be too close to Yang Ming. In desperation, he had to pretend that he didn't know Yang Ming and escorted Yang Ming into the junkyard. However, after entering the room, Zhang Jinghua looked back and found that Tian Long didn't follow. He couldn't help but ask, Mr. Yang, you are... Yang Ming changed his previous decadent expression. He winked at Zhang Jinghua and smiled slightly, but this was only very short. After a while, Yang Ming returned to his normal expression. Zhang Jinghua was stunned, but he immediately understood Yang Ming's meaning. Yang Ming wanted him to feel at ease. Thinking of this, Zhang Jinghua was relieved. Although he didn't know what Yang Ming was going to do, he thought that there was an important plan. Seeing that there were other people coming from behind, Zhang Jinghua quickly restored his previous indifferent expression. He took Yang Ming to the door of the big room where the Sun family was imprisoned. He shouted to the man behind him, "Go and open the door." Yes. The man quickly responded. He found the key and was ready to open the door. Sun Hongjun was angry with what Tian Long said yesterday. Sun Jia was also helpless. Yesterday, she just made her father's mood better, and Tian Long came to make things worse. This made Sun Hongjun, who was already very depressed, sigh even more. Little Jia, you said that Tian Long wanted to catch Yang Ming. What should we do? Sun Hongjun sighed. Dad, don't think so much. How can Yang Ming be caught so easily? Sun Jia also felt that Yang Ming couldn't be caught by Tian Long so easily. AI, things are unpredictable. Yang Ming is smart and does things steadily, but in the end, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. How can he be the opponent of Tian Long, an experienced person? Sun Hongjun sighed and said, originally, I also thought that Yang Ming might be able to save us, but after listening to Tian Long's words yesterday, this possibility is not big. Sun Jia was also smart. She immediately understood what her father meant. You mean that Tian Long's next target is Yang Ming? Judging from Tian Long's ambition, he won't allow anyone to ruin his plan. Sun Hongjun nodded and said, now, Yang Ming is his potential opponent. He can't let Yang Ming continue to be a dangerous existence. He will definitely make the first move. Yeah, if Tian Long didn't hear our discussion yesterday. Sun Jia completely attributed Tian Long's actions and thoughts toward Yang Ming to Tian Long overhearing their conversation yesterday. If Tian Long didn't hear it, he wouldn't have thought of this. It's all my fault for talking too much. Sun San's heart was uncomfortable because he wanted to persuade Sun Hongjun yesterday, so he casually mentioned Yang Ming. He didn't expect Tian Long to be alerted. If Tian Long wanted to deal with Yang Ming, he would become a sinner. Uncle San, this can't be blamed on you. Sun Jia shook her head, but she hoped that Yang Ming wouldn't be so easily dealt with by Tianlong. If it was so easy to be dealt with by Tianlong, then he wasn't worthy to be Sun Jia's man. There was no need to look at him at all. Sun Jia thought so, but in fact, she still had some expectations for Yang Ming. It was impossible to say that Sun Jia had no feelings for Yang Ming, but Sun Jia was a rational person. She had never given Yang Ming a clear answer because Sun Jia herself wasn't sure if Yang Ming was the man who had enough ability to protect her for a lifetime. In the past, she had almost made a wrong choice. Sun Jia was naturally careful now. As she grew older, her mind was more mature than before. Therefore, her ideal man must have enough ability. At least, he must be stronger than her, Sun Jia. If Yang Ming was so easy to be caught by Tianlong, then she had nothing to say. However, everyone in the Sun family didn't expect that Tianlong wanted to deal with Yang Ming. It wasn't because of a few words from them. Tianlong wanted to deal with Yang Ming premeditated. It could be said that it had nothing to do with the Sun family. Even if there was no relationship between Yang Ming and the Sun family, since the behind-the-scenes boss asked so, Tianlong had to try his best to deal with Yang Ming. There was the sound of a key opening the door from outside. This time, the people in the Sun family learned to be smart and shut their mouths in a timely manner. They didn't want Tianlong to hear anything. You go in. In front of outsiders, Zhang Jinghua still had to be stiff and strong. He couldn't let outsiders see his relationship with Yang Ming, including the people in the Sun family. Although the people in the Sun family and Yang Ming were on the same side, there were too many people. Who knew if they would be exposed at that time? Seeing that the door was opened, the people in the Sun family thought that Tianlong had returned and was going to say something unpleasant. However, they didn't expect that the person who was escorted in was actually Yang Ming. Yang Ming? Sun Jia's eyes widened. She couldn't believe the facts in front of her. Isn't this Yang Ming too cowardly? Last night, we were just talking about him, and today he was caught by Tianlong. Even if you can't beat Tianlong, you have to persist for a while before being caught, right? How did you get caught directly? Thinking of this, Sun Jia felt disappointed. Yang Ming was far from the man in her mind. At least, if Yang Ming persisted for a few more days, Sun Jia could barely fool herself by saying that she, her father, and third uncle were caught by Tianlong. Yang Ming was caught, but it couldn't be said that he wasn't capable enough. It could only be said that Tianlong was too cunning. However, he was caught in an instant, so the meaning was different. Sun Hongjun and Sun San didn't think as much as Sun Jia, but disappointment was inevitable. It was just that they weren't disappointed with Yang Ming, but they were disappointed that they couldn't be rescued. Yang Ming smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. The walls had ears. It wasn't that he didn't understand this truth. Little Jia, Uncle's son, third uncle, are you okay? Yang Ming could only greet them politely at the moment. Sun Jia didn't speak. She was indeed a little disappointed with Yang Ming. In her impression, Yang Ming wasn't so weak, but the facts were in front of her, and Sun Jia had to believe it. Therefore, her disappointment was inevitable. The feelings for Yang Ming in her heart also surged up again. It was very unpleasant. She didn't know how to decide. This was the difference between a rational woman and an ordinary woman, but Sun Jia couldn't be blamed for being too careful. It was because of her position and her own character. Fortunately. Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that a few casual words yesterday would implicate you. A few casual words? What do you mean? Yang Ming was stunned. He was confused by Sun Hongjun. Sun San also helplessly repeated what he said yesterday to Yang Ming. Yang Ming was even more stunned. What does this have to do with me being caught? But he couldn't tell the truth to the Sun family now. Because victory or defeat would depend on when Tianlong came later. There couldn't be any failure factors mixed in. Therefore, in order to be able to hit the target in a while, he must first hide from the Sun family so that they wouldn't reveal flaws at the critical moment. Yang Ming thought about it. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside the door again. He knew that Tianlong had come. With Tianlong's character, after he caught Yang Ming and put him together with the Sun family, he would definitely humiliate Yang Ming to satisfy his arrogant heart. Therefore, Yang Ming grasped this point, so he was fearless. When Yang Ming was caught by Tianlong, he was obedient without the slightest resistance. In other words, even if Tianlong didn't come, the guard here, Zhang Jinghua, was also Yang Ming's man. Yang Ming could let him release Yang Ming at any time. As long as Yang Ming was free, he could make further plans. The door of the room was opened again. This time, it was Tianlong who came in. Tianlong's arrogant laughter could be heard by Yang Ming at once. He didn't need to look up. "President's son, this time, do you still have any expectations? Aren't you looking for Yang Ming? I've brought him here." Tianlong pointed at Yang Ming and laughed out loud. Sun Hongjuan's face changed slightly, but he knew that Tianlong was deliberately angering him, so Sun Hongjun didn't want to be angry with him at the moment. He snorted and turned his head away. He didn't have Sun Jie's thoughts of personal gains and losses. He just thought that his and Sun San's words yesterday harmed Yang Ming. He felt guilty toward Yang Ming in his heart. Tianlong saw that Sun Hongjun didn't speak, but he didn't care. He snorted and looked at Yang Ming. "Kid, aren't you very smart? You even know how to bribe your people around me and start with the people around me. However, aren't you still a prisoner?" Yang Ming looked at Tianlong coldly. "Don't think that you are invincible just because you have practiced the Golden Bell Shield. Why? Are you jealous?" Tianlong was so happy today. He actually caught Yang Ming. In other words, he could explain to the behind-the-scenes boss and continue to get the strong support of the behind-the-scenes boss. With the support of the behind-the-scenes boss, everything was not a problem. Jealous? Why should I be jealous? Yang Ming said faintly, "Jealous of your broken Golden Bell Shield? You." Tianlong didn't expect that Yang Ming, who was very obedient just now, suddenly became eloquent. However, immediately, Tianlong thought that it must be that Yang Ming had no other way. Yang Ming broke the pot here and angered Tianlong to get psychological satisfaction. Thinking of this, Tianlong wasn't angry anymore. He looked at Yang Ming with a smile, then looked at Sun Hongjun and Sun Jie's family. He said, "President's son, are you confused by what you just heard?" Sun Hongjun snorted slightly, which was a response to Tianlong. Indeed, he was confused. He didn't know what Tianlong and Yang Ming were talking about. What Golden Bell Shield? What is that? "President's son, you have found a good son-in-law," Tianlong said regretfully, "but he is unlucky. He thinks he is smart and bribed the people around me, which is Wang Renping. I really didn't expect that Wang Renping, this kid, could actually be bribed. But it's useless. I have a secret on me. That is, I was once a disciple of Shaolin and practiced the Golden Bell Shield. Ha 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 ha, what do you think he can do to me? He can only blame himself for meeting me as an opponent." Speaking of this, Tianlong couldn't help but laugh arrogantly. Sun Jie's face changed slightly. It seemed that she really misunderstood Yang Ming. Yang Ming was not a coward, but he had been planning to rescue them. He was just a step away from success, but he didn't expect this Tianlong to practice the Golden Bell Shield. Although Sun Jie didn't know how powerful the Golden Bell Shield was after practicing it, she read in wuxia novels that those who practiced the Golden Bell Shield Iron Shirt were invulnerable. As a result, Yang Ming was obviously not an opponent. Thinking of this, Sun Jie felt a little guilty. When Yang Ming came in, I didn't pay attention to him. Would he be angry? At this moment, I still think about these things. Only Sun Jie would do it. After all, Sun Jie was still a girl. In a critical moment, she was thinking about whether her lover had misunderstood her, and not other things. yeah, you can only blame yourself for meeting me as an opponent. Yang Ming took over Tianlong's words and said faintly. You still have a little self-awareness. What do you mean? Tianlong wasn't stupid. He immediately heard that Yang Ming's words weren't right. Why did it seem to be the opposite? However, just as he was inexplicably surprised, Yang Ming moved. He saw Yang Ming's body leaping into the air and kicking straight at Tianlong's head. Tianlong was shocked. He didn't expect Yang Ming to still want to attack him at this time. Before this, he had already tied Yang Ming's hands with a rubber band because the rubber band was tight and elastic. When it was tied to a person's hand, once it formed a dead knot, it couldn't be untied. It could only be cut with a sharp knife. Therefore, Tianlong wasn't afraid that the Sun family could untie the rubber band. So, when he came in, he didn't have any defense against Yang Ming. However, he didn't expect that Yang Ming could still use this flying kick when his hands were tied together. He was suddenly shocked. However, Tianlong was also a martial arts master. He had a secret technique, so he reacted immediately. He quickly channeled his martial arts. Although Yang Ming's kick didn't seem to be very strong, who knew if this kid had any special plans? Therefore, Tianlong couldn't let him succeed, so he channeled the golden bell shield. He wasn't afraid of Yang Ming's kick. Yang Ming's kick landed on Tianlong's shoulder. He only felt like he was kicking a large stone slab. Not to mention that his foot hurt, but Tianlong was fine. However, Yang Ming obviously had a backup plan. This kick was just to confuse Tianlong. He saw that Yang Ming's lower left leg turned abruptly in the air and kicked toward Tianlong's right waist. This was Yang Ming's unique skill, the Yang-style flying kick. Although it wasn't pretty, and the side effects were relatively large, he had to admit that this trick allowed Yang Ming to repeatedly avoid danger. Sure enough, Tianlong never thought that Yang Ming would actually practice such a series of flying kicks, and the second kick was aimed at his right waist. Tianlong's face suddenly showed a horrified expression, but it was too late to dodge now. Tianlong groaned in pain. He covered his right waist and leaned against the door panel on the side in pain. He took deep breaths and couldn't speak. The sweat on his face rolled down. Obviously, he was in great pain. When Yang Ming saw that he had hit Tianlong's vital point, he suddenly showed a gratified smile. He didn't care how ugly his falling posture was. He squatted on the ground. Yang Ming was also nervous and sweating. This was the only chance. If Yang Ming didn't grasp it, it would be more difficult to control Tianlong in the future. But now it seemed that he had succeeded. The reason why Yang Ming's second kick was aimed at Tianlong's right waist was because it was Tianlong's Achilles heel. People who practiced the Golden Bell Shield, Iron Shirt, 13 Grand Guardians, and other external skills would always have one or two places that couldn't be practiced. This was the Achilles heel. When the Golden Bell Shield was practiced, the whole body was invulnerable, but the Achilles heel was an exception. If the Achilles heel was found, with a heavy poke, the martial arts would be abolished. In Liang Yuxing's novel, The Fate of the Dragon and Phoenix Hairpin, Yang Mu Lao's disciple was flirting with a girl on the streets of Chang'an. After Duan Kexi saw it, he hit the Weilu point of his Achilles heel and abolished his Golden Bell Shield. Yang Ming also knew this, so he pretended to surrender to Tianlong and waited for an opportunity to see where his Achilles heel was. Otherwise, with Yang Ming's identity as the King of Assassins' disciple, even if he couldn't beat Tianlong, this invulnerable monster, it was impossible for him to be captured by Tianlong. He couldn't attack, but he could protect himself. Yang Ming could totally escape. However, Yang Ming didn't run away, but obediently allowed himself to be captured. Yang Ming also wanted to use the time when he was captured to carefully find where Tianlong's Achilles heel was. If it were someone else, they might not find Tianlong's Achilles heel even if they searched blindly for a lifetime. But Yang Ming was different. Don't forget what Yang Ming relied on to start, that was his special ability. Yang Ming could carefully observe every inch of Tianlong's skin through his special ability. Because practicing the golden bell shield would transform the muscles and muscles were different, so the muscles and muscles of the places that had been practiced and the places that hadn't been practiced were different. Although this work was troublesome, under Yang Ming's careful comparison, he finally found the right side of Tianlong's waist, which was very different from the rest of the muscles, so he concluded that this was Tianlong's Achilles heel. During the time when Yang Ming stayed in the trunk, he wasn't doing anything else, but he was using his special ability to observe Tianlong. When they arrived at the junkyard, Yang Ming also found Tianlong's Achilles heel. He was waiting for Tianlong to humiliate him, then he would give him a fatal blow. Of course, Yang Ming couldn't directly launch an attack on Tianlong's Achilles heel. In that case, Tianlong would definitely be on guard and desperately protect his Achilles heel. It would be more difficult for Yang Ming to hit Tianlong's Achilles heel. Because people who practiced martial arts were more sensitive to their own Achilles heel, Yang Ming couldn't let Tianlong realize that he already knew where his Achilles heel was. Therefore, Yang Ming used the Yang Ming's flying kick. The first kick was aimed at Tianlong's face to confuse Tianlong's attention, and the second kick in the air was the key. It was aimed at Tianlong's Achilles heel. Chapter 1269. Yang Ming's Yang-style flying kick was cultivated by Yang Ming when he didn't study properly and fought with others all day long. There was no martial art or technique at all. It was purely cultivated by force. Of course, people in the martial arts world disdained this kind of kung fu. Although after the first kick in the air, there was still a short pause before the second kick, and it was equally lethal, the after effects of this move were too great. People who used kung fu would cause their legs to be suspended in the air and lose control of their center of gravity. They would directly sit on the ground with their big buttocks. If this flying kick couldn't kill the enemy in one move, the consequences would be quite severe. Once you fell to the ground, you couldn't get up quickly. How could the opponent seize this opportunity and let it go? Therefore, no one would casually use such a dangerous move. However, Yang Ming was a guy who sought victory in danger. This Yang-style flying kick had been practiced to perfection. It wasn't the first time it was used at a critical moment. There had been countless successful experiences in the past, so Yang Ming was sure that one kick could finish Tianlong. Moreover, Yang Ming had found Tianlong's Achilles heel. Therefore, when Tianlong was unprepared, Yang Ming used a feint to distract Tianlong's attention with the first kick, and the second kick ruthlessly kicked his Achilles heel. The impact on Tianlong could be imagined. Anyone who practiced this kind of body-hardening technique had an Achilles heel. Once the Achilles heel was hit by gravity, the whole body's kung fu would be broken. Tianlong was naturally no exception. He stared at Yang Ming with a face full of horror, but Tianlong couldn't do anything. He knew that he was finished. He couldn't fight against Yang Ming anymore. He was completely defeated. In this short moment, Tianlong finally understood what extreme joy begets sorrow meant. He was still arrogant before, thinking that he had made a great contribution in front of the behind-the-scenes boss, but in the blink of an eye, his kung fu was broken by Yang Ming, and he was going to become a prisoner. Someone come. Tianlong was not stupid. He knew that he would definitely be attacked by Yang Ming here. Now that his martial arts were broken, how could he still be a match for Yang Ming? Therefore, the moment he regained consciousness, he hurriedly shouted for help. Zhang Jinghua had been waiting not far away. How could he dare to go far? Hearing Tianlong's shout, Zhang Jinghua immediately rushed in, but the situation in front of him made Zhang Jinghua somewhat at a loss. He saw Yang Ming sitting on the ground in an extremely unsightly posture, as if he had slipped and fallen on his butt. As for Tianlong's expression, it was even more strange. His face was pale, and his forehead was full of sweat. He held onto the door frame and gasped for breath, as if he was very sad. Just as he was wondering what to do, Yang Ming said, "Jinghua, go find a rope and tie him up." "Ah." Okay. After a short moment of shock, Zhang Jinghua understood the situation. Tianlong must have been beaten to a pulp by Yang Ming. Although Tianlong was standing at the moment, and Yang Ming was sitting, Tianlong's face was depressed and painful, but Yang Ming was very relaxed and happy. So in comparison, Zhang Jinghua knew that Yang Ming had won, but he was afraid that it could only be said to be a Pyrrhic victory. But no matter what, a victory was a victory. It did not matter whether it was a Pyrrhic victory, so Zhang Jinghua happily agreed and ran to find a rope. Tianlong was slightly stunned, and then he immediately understood. It turned out that Zhang Jinghua was also bought by Yang Ming. He couldn't help but say sadly, "Good method. Good method. It is really the new generation excels the old. I was actually tricked by you in the end." Yang Ming sighed and looked at Tianlong. He couldn't tell what kind of feeling was in his heart. Sympathy? Pity? Or ridicule? Tianlong knew that it was meaningless for him to resist now. Once his kung fu was broken, he wouldn't be Yang Ming's opponent. From Yang Ming's kung fu of flying needles, Yang Ming wasn't a mediocre person. Now, even Zhang Jinghua was bought by Yang Ming. Then, why would Tianlong resist? Thinking of this, Tianlong also accepted his fate. But, how do you know where my Achilles heel is? The fight between Yang Ming and Tianlong was too fast. In a flash, the people of the Sun family didn't understand what was going on. Tianlong was holding the door panel and dying, so they didn't know what method Yang Ming used to make Tianlong become like this. Now that they listened to Tianlong's inquiry, Sun Hongjun and Sun Jia understood that it was Yang Ming who broke Tianlong's Achilles heel. Sun Hongjun's face finally showed a smile that had never been seen in the past few days. Although Tianlong was still standing here, when he saw that even Zhang Jinghua listened to Yang Ming, he knew that Tianlong was completely finished this time. It was impossible for Tianlong to continue to be powerful. Sun Hongjun, who had been locked up for so many days, would regain his freedom. Sun Jia widened her eyes and pursed her lips. The emotions in her heart couldn't be calmed down for a long time. In the end, I still underestimated him. In just half a year, from when I first met him, that half-grown little boy who had just graduated from high school had actually become a truly indomitable man whom I could entrust my entire life to. The careful plan and the final beautiful desperate counterattack made Sun Jia look askance. Her heart was moved. Perhaps, it's time, isn't it? Yang Ming has finally grown up. He no longer needs me to give him advice. He already has his own ideas and plans. Yang Ming stood up and easily removed the cowhide that bound his hands and threw it aside. Tianlong was even more surprised. Of course, this was a piece of cake for Yang Ming, an assassin. If this cowhide could bind him, then he didn't need to be an assassin. He could just wait to be killed. If I say that you said it in your dream, would you believe it? Yang Ming replied casually. Tianlong's face turned black. Of course, he wouldn't believe it. He never had the problem of sleep-talking, let alone telling Yang Ming his dream talk. However, Yang Ming obviously didn't want to tell him. Although Tianlong had some regrets, it didn't matter whether Yang Ming told him the truth or not. Becoming a prisoner of Yang Ming was already an inevitable fact. Even if he figured out the truth of the matter, it would be useless. There was no meaning. Therefore, Tianlong no longer dug into the root of the problem. This would only humiliate himself. Who knew what Yang Ming would think of to deal with him, so Tianlong closed his mouth. Yang Ming saw that Tianlong didn't say anything, so he didn't bother with him. He turned around and carefully looked at the people in the room, Sun Hongjun, Sun Jia, and Sun San. Yang Ming didn't pay much attention to Sun San's previous appearance, but Sun Hongjun was obviously a lot older. His whole person was lethargic. Although he saw that Tianlong was knocked down by him at the moment, he only showed a smile. His fatigue couldn't be hidden. Sun Jia, on the other hand, was obviously a lot thinner. Her face was not as round as before, and she had become a bony beauty. Yang Ming's gaze slid down and fell on Sun Jie's chest. Yang Ming wanted to see if this chest had become thinner. If it became thinner, it wouldn't be fun. This was Yang Ming's favorite. Sun Jie was very happy when she saw Yang Ming looking at her face with concern, but it didn't take long for Yang Ming's gaze to change direction. How could Sun Jie not know what this kid was looking at? The good impression of Yang Ming in her heart suddenly fell to the bottom. She gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "It is easy to change mountains and rivers, but it is hard to change one's nature." He is still so perverted. Yang Ming naturally knew Sun Jie's thoughts. He took out an MP4 from his pocket like a magic trick. It was the same one that Sun Jie had when he first met her. After Yang Ming took it for himself, he downloaded a few songs from it and carried it with him. No matter if he went out to perform a mission or other things, he would listen to it when he was free. When Sun Jie saw the MP4 in Yang Ming's hand, she was suddenly dumbfounded. Thinking of the first time she saw Yang Ming, Sun Jie felt her face blush. Yang Ming must be saying, "Why am I perverted? Didn't I learn it from you?" Here, the two little lovers were exchanging glances, but Tianlong had been tied up by Zhang Jinghua. Tianlong also accepted his fate. Just like Yang Ming, he didn't resist at all and let Zhang Jinghua tie him up like a big dumpling. "Uncle Sun, little Jie, you are all tired. Don't stay in this room. Let's find a better room to rest." After that, Yang Ming turned to Zhang Jinghua and said, "Jinghua, go and clean up the best room here." "Ugh. Mr. Yang, the best room here is Brother Long." "Ah no, Tian Long's room, but now he is under house arrest," Zhang Jinghua said with difficulty. "Damn, then why don't you let him out?" Yang Ming was a little dumbfounded after hearing it. The father put his son under house arrest. Yang Ming really heard it for the first time. Why is it like the emperor in the past imprisoning the prince? Now that Tian Long was caught, Tian Donghua naturally should be let out. If Zhang Jinghua didn't remind Yang Ming would really forget about this. It wasn't that Yang Ming valued sex over friendship, but when Tian Long brought him over, he locked him in the room with the Sun family. Zhang Jinghua quickly followed Yang Ming's instructions. Yang Ming, Sun Jie, Sun Hongjun, and Sun Sen went out of the room. Yang Ming locked the door of the room and said to Tian Long inside, "You should reflect on yourself." Sun Jie really wanted to rush into Yang Ming's arms, but because Sun Hongjun was also there, Sun Jie was such a bold person. She didn't have the habit of being conspicuous in front of her father, so she could only give up. She didn't want Yang Ming to be too proud. Although she had now made the final decision, at least she had to put on airs. How would Sun Hongjun know the principles between children? He didn't speak in the room just now because he was so excited that he forgot to speak. This time, he regained his calmness after leaving the room. "Yang Ming, you really didn't let Uncle down. This time, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how long we would be locked up by Tian Long." "Don't say that. This is what I should do, ugh." Why did Yang Ming feel that he was a little bit like a primary school student who didn't pocket the money he picked up in front of his elders? "AI, yeah, we're all a family. Don't be so formal." Sun Hongjun was a smart person. He naturally knew that Yang Ming had a few girlfriends in Songjiang. His daughter could only be ranked behind, but it couldn't be helped. Yang Ming was now stronger than him. Sun Hongjun naturally pretended not to know and got close to Yang Ming. Sun Hongjun walked in front, and Yang Ming and Sun Jie walked behind. Sun Hongjun didn't have eyes behind his back, so Sun Jie was more relaxed. The two people hooked their fingers, scratched their palms, and had a lot of fun. "Is this a test for me?" Yang Ming whispered in Sun Jie's ear. The two people were close. Sun Jie didn't know if Yang Ming did it deliberately or not. Anyway, it made Sun Jie's ear itch, and she had an unnatural physiological reaction. Sun Jie rolled her eyes at Yang Ming. She was a little annoyed by his behavior, but she still nodded. When we go back this time, let's register, hey. Yang Ming was suddenly stunned. He was shocked by Sun Jie's words. Seeing Yang Ming's appearance, Sun Jie smiled playfully. I'm just lying to you. Look at how scared you are. Having said that, Sun Jie's heart still sank for no reason. It seems that I can't replace Chen Mingyan's position in Yang Ming's heart. Even if there is no Chen Mingyan, I'm afraid that Shao Qing is before me. Thinking of this, Sun Jie was a little discouraged. She was unwilling in her heart. I am always competitive in everything. How can I be at a disadvantage in terms of feelings? If it is really Shao Qing who is competing with me, then Sun Jie may let it go, but the other party is a little girl. How can Sun Jie be balanced? How can I lose to Chen Mengyan? Yang Ming breathed a sigh of relief, but his mood was a little heavy. Indeed, getting married and having children was a problem that had to be considered carefully. I don't know how Li Chang and General Kars are doing. Yang Ming's idea was actually very simple. He bought a private island and moved his whole family there. It was his own territory. Of course, he had the final say. The island had been bought, and his goal had been mostly completed. Thinking of this, Yang Ming was relieved. He said to Sun Jie, "Don't worry. I will definitely give you what you deserve." She didn't know what Yang Ming meant. Sun Jie was surprised, but it was not appropriate to ask. She temporarily put it in her heart as a doubt. Not long after, Yang Ming saw Tian Donghua running over from that side. As he ran, he shouted like a big fool, "Bro, are you here? Damn, great. I knew it was you. You will definitely come to save me. You won't leave me alone." Yang Ming suddenly sweated. He thought, if it weren't for Zhang Jingguo's reminder, would have really forgotten about you, but I couldn't show anything on my face. Sun Jie knew Yang Ming very well. She glanced at Yang Ming, but she didn't say anything. Donghua. Yang Ming suddenly found that he didn't know how to face Tian Donghua. His father had just been caught by Yang Ming, but Tian Donghua was very grateful to Yang Ming. What the fuck is going on? Perhaps Tian Donghua still didn't know that Tian Long was caught. Zhang Jinghua just went to release him. Maybe it was just to tell him that Yang Ming came to save him. In fact, it was indeed like this. At that time, Tian Donghua was watching TV in the room. He also thought it through. His father didn't listen to his advice and was stubborn. He didn't need to spoil himself. A hunger strike was the behavior of a psychopath. Therefore, Tian Donghua decided to do what he should do. It was better to live more comfortably. As he was watching a talent show, the sound of a key opening the door suddenly came from outside the door. Tian Donghua frowned. He thought that it was his father who came to persuade him to help him deal with Yang Ming. Suddenly, there was a burst of disgust in his heart. To be honest, Tian Donghua didn't want to say anything to Tian Long now because he already knew that Tian Long was stubborn now. He simply wouldn't listen to his advice, so he was too lazy to say anything to Tian Long. So he didn't even look at it. When Zhang Jinghua entered the room, he found that this young master was actually watching TV leisurely. He was stunned, but he still reported, "Master Tian, Mr. Yang is here." "Mr. Yang? What Mr. Yang?" Tian Donghua heard that it wasn't his father's voice. When he looked back, he saw that it was Zhang Jinghua. When he heard him say Mr. Yang, he was stunned and didn't react. "Yang Ming, Mr. Yang. He is here to save you," Zhang Jinghua quickly explained. "Ah. Bro is here." Tian Donghua heard Yang Ming's name and suddenly jumped up. There was the previous scene. At this time, when the two people met, Tian Donghua was excited, but Yang Ming was helpless. Taking advantage of this time, Zhang Jinghua had already cleaned up Tian Donghua's original room. Tian Donghua didn't mess up the room, so Zhang Jinghua only needed to change a set of bedding and tidy up the bathroom. Of course, he didn't need to clean it himself. he sent his men to do it. Zhang Jinggua's men were fence-sitters. When they saw that the boss had betrayed and captured Tianlong, they had no choice but to follow Zhang Jinggua directly. What's more, it seemed that Zhang Jinggua and Tian Donghua were on the same side. They were justifiable morally. Little Jia, uncle's son, you go and rest first. I have something to talk to Donghua alone. Although Yang Ming was helpless, there were some things that he had to let Tian Donghua know. Tian Donghua could turn against Tianlong for Yang Ming. If he wanted to do something to Tianlong, he naturally had to ask for the opinion of this good brother. Okay. Sun Jian knew that Yang Ming and Tian Donghua were classmates. She understood the relationship between them, so she nodded and didn't say much. She took her father to the front room to rest and left the space for Yang Ming and Tian Donghua. Tian Donghua was not a fool. When he saw Yang Ming send away the others, he vaguely guessed what Yang Ming was going to say. It must be about his father, Tianlong. Since Zhang Jinggua, who detained him, had become Yang Ming's man, then it was not difficult for Tian Donghua to guess that Yang Ming must have begun to go against his father. Although he was somewhat uncomfortable in his heart, he had to make a choice at this time. Chapter 1270. Tian Donghua had already thought that Yang Ming must have stood on the opposite side of his father. The two people had become enemies, so Tian Donghua had to choose a side. It was impossible to help Tianlong deal with Yang Ming. If Tian Donghua had this intention, he would not be put under house arrest here. However, Tian Donghua still couldn't help Yang Ming deal with his father. After all, that person was his father, the person who gave birth to him and raised him, so Tian Donghua couldn't be ruthless. However, recalling his father's actions, Tian Donghua also knew that his father was really hopeless. If Yang Ming wanted to deal with him, he would never stop it. Even if his father didn't have Yang Ming to deal with him, he would definitely not have a good end if he continued like this. So Tian Donghua gritted his teeth and said to Yang Ming, "About my father?" Yang Ming nodded. He had to talk to Tian Donghua about this. After all, Tian Donghua stood on his side when he had a conflict with Tianlong. He even didn't hesitate to fall out with his father. But how to say it? The other party was Tian Donghua's father after all. Since Tian Donghua really regarded himself as a friend and a good brother, Yang Ming couldn't ignore him. On the issue of how to deal with Tianlong, Yang Ming still decided to discuss with Tian Donghua. Well, Tian Donghua smiled bitterly. Since my father did such a thing, I don't want to speak for him. Bro, you have to be careful. Tian Donghua originally thought that it was impossible for Yang Ming to compete with his father, but now, Tian Donghua knew that he had underestimated Yang Ming. Since Yang Ming could bribe Zhang Jinggua to release him and the Sun family, then Yang Ming could also bribe other people around his father. He still had a certain assurance to deal with Tianlong. This was a painful choice, but Tian Donghua had to make a choice, so he deliberated and finally chose not to help either side. First, it was his father on the other side, and this was his brother on the other side. Tian Donghua had no way to choose. Second, Tian Donghua really couldn't help much. But the meaning of his words was to express his position to Yang Ming. That was, you can deal with my father. I don't care about this side. It was conceivable how painful Tian Donghua was at the moment. Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He didn't understand the specific meaning of Tian Donghua's words at first, but after thinking about it, he understood. Tian Donghua must have misunderstood in that room. Ah. Tian Donghua was suddenly stunned, but after a short moment of astonishment, Tian Donghua woke up. You mean, my father has already? Yang Ming nodded. You are my good brother, so I really don't have any suitable way to deal with this matter. It's really a headache. Tian Donghua was also silent. He didn't expect Yang Ming to really catch his father. This time, Tian Donghua was really in a dilemma. His original idea was that although Yang Ming was powerful, his father was not weak. It was best that the two people could talk to each other. This was the best ending. But now, since Yang Ming caught Tianlong, with the relationship between Yang Ming and the Sun family, how could his father have an easy time? In fact, Yang Ming could have done it without discussing with him, but Yang Ming still told him, which meant that Yang Ming regarded him as a brother. But the more it was like this, the more guilty Tian Donghua was, and the more he couldn't interfere with Yang Ming. It was obvious that his father was wrong, and he deserved to be caught by Yang Ming. How could Tian Donghua cover up for his father? That would be too disloyal. What's more, Tian Donghua also understood Sun Hongjun's character. Sun Hongjun was also a person with a reputation in society. This time, he was tricked by Tianlong and was under house arrest for such a long time. His heart must have been filled with anger. Moreover, Tianlong betrayed him first. Once Sun Hongjun caught Tianlong, how could he let Tianlong go? Most likely, this time, Tianlong was doomed. Sun Hongjun would definitely not let him off easily. Thinking of this, Tian Donghua was a little sad, but he also knew that if he forced Yang Ming to do something, Yang Ming would do his best to do it, but the key was whether the Sun family would agree. Once he asked Yang Ming to leave a way out for his father, Yang Ming would definitely do his best. But on the other hand, wasn't that creating a conflict between Yang Ming and the Sun family? So after weighing it again and again, Tian Donghua finally said, "Bro, you can deal with it however you want. Don't care about my feelings. My father's end today is also his own fault. I won't speak for him and make it difficult for you." Yang Ming didn't expect Tian Donghua to say these words. Yang Ming originally thought that Tian Donghua would beg him to not pursue Tianlong's responsibility for his face, but that was obviously impossible. Even if he didn't pursue Tianlong's responsibility, it was impossible to let him continue to work under the Sun family. But Yang Ming never thought that Tian Donghua would let him make the decision. He wouldn't interfere. How much effort did he have to make this decision? However, Tian Donghua's words made the pressure in Yang Ming's heart lessen a lot. Although Yang Ming also wanted to kill Tianlong, because of his relationship with Tian Donghua, Yang Ming couldn't do so. But even if he didn't kill him, he definitely wouldn't let him go easily. However, since Tian Donghua said so, Yang Ming had a plan in his heart. Thinking of this, Yang Ming relaxed a lot in an instant. He smiled at Tian Donghua and said, "Let's go. Go in with me and talk to your father." Although Tian Donghua was also very worried about his father's situation, he and Tianlong quarreled and had different opinions. After all, they were father and son. But Tian Donghua still hesitated at the moment. He didn't know how to face his father. In the blink of an eye, his father became a prisoner. Tian Donghua was really afraid that he couldn't help it and would ask Yang Ming to do something, making it difficult for him. So, Tian Donghua flinched. He wasn't a person who couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Naturally, he knew that there was nothing strange about his father's current situation, so Tian Donghua didn't want to see Tianlong at this moment. Forget it. Tian Donghua sighed heavily and said somewhat helplessly. "What's wrong?" Yang Ming had some thoughts. At this time, Tian Donghua should want to see Tianlong, right? Nothing. I don't know how to face it. The relationship between the three of us. Tian Donghua shook his head. "I'm afraid that I can't help but plead for him." Tian Donghua was also a bachelor. In front of Yang Ming, he didn't want to hide anything, so he said his thoughts directly. Yang Ming didn't expect that Tian Donghua didn't want to see Tianlong because of this. He was suddenly dumbfounded and said, "Let's go together. Just say what you want to say." Tian Donghua looked up incredulously. He wanted to see Yang Ming's expression, but he found that Yang Ming had already taken the lead. Tian Donghua lowered his head again and carefully pondered what Yang Ming said. Seeing that Yang Ming had gone far away, Tian Donghua gritted his teeth and quickly followed. Zhang Jinghua settled the people of the Sun family and ran over to see if anything happened to Yang Ming. Until now, Zhang Jinggua's heart was still fluctuating. He thought, Mr. Yang is really powerful. I was really scared when I saw him being caught, but fortunately, it was a strategy to lure the enemy. Now, it seems that Tianlong still lost. Open the door. Yang Ming glanced at Zhang Jinghua and ordered him. Yes. Zhang Jinghua hurriedly opened the door in front of Yang Ming and said, Mr. Yang. Young Master Tian, please. Zhang Jinghua could see that Yang Ming was actually in cahoots with Tian Donghua. This was really messy. The one locked inside was young Master Tian's father. However, these things were not what Zhang Jinghua could speculate. It was better for him to know less about the things at that level. The more he knew about the things at the top, the worse it would be for Zhang Jinghua. Tianlong heard the sound of the door opening and raised his head slightly. He didn't expect that he lost, and he lost to Yang Ming. He was unwilling, but he couldn't do anything. Seeing Yang Ming come in, Tianlong said coldly, What are you doing here? If you want to kill me, just do whatever you want. I have nothing to say to you. Hee, Tianlong, you have nothing to say to me. However, before you die, don't you have anyone you want to see? Although Yang Ming's voice was calm, it was full of coldness, which made Tianlong's heart very uncomfortable. Tianlong was subconsciously stunned. Am I going to die? Before I die, I naturally want to see my two sons. However, would Yang Ming agree to this kind of request? Tian Donghua, who was about to step in, heard Yang Ming's words. His footsteps suddenly stopped, and his facial expression froze. Although Tian Donghua was prepared, Yang Ming and the Sun family would definitely not let go of his father. In the end, it was possible for him to apologize with death. However, when he really heard Yang Ming say this, Tian Donghua's heart was in a mess again. He didn't know how to face it. Yang Ming also noticed the strangeness behind him. He looked back at Tian Donghua and said, Donghua, you come in. There are some things that you have to face in the end. Tian Donghua's face was gloomy. He nodded and walked in. Looking at Tianlong, who was tied up on the ground, he was very upset. Yesterday, his father, who was still high up and strategizing, became a prisoner today. However, who could he blame for this? Dad. Tian Donghua carefully glanced at his father on the ground. He really had a lot of words, but he didn't know what to say when he reached his mouth. Yes, he really didn't know what to say. He really didn't know. Donghua, you don't have to be sad. When Tianlong saw that it was his son, the expression on his face also eased. Since ancient times, there has been a saying that the winner is the king, and the loser is a thief. Your father, I, lost. I didn't expect that in the end. I actually couldn't win against this junior. I'm really ashamed. Dad, why are you still so stubborn? Tian Donghua listened to Tianlong's words and was a little angry. Don't you realize that you were wrong from the beginning? Wrong? Tianlong smiled self-deprecatingly. There has never been an absolute right or wrong in this world. The so-called right or wrong is the starting point of one's own position. It is selfish. Aren't you selfish? Yang Ming couldn't help but interject with a sneer at this time. Yes, I am selfish. Every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. Tianlong didn't deny it. Instead, he admitted it. It's true that I am selfish, but I don't think that what I do is wrong. I am planning for Tian Donghua's future. What is wrong with me? I am not wrong. Dad, you still don't understand. My future is fought for by myself. It is not given to me by you. Tian Donghua sighed. I don't need you to do this, don't need? Let me tell you. Once Sun Hongjun and I enter the coffin, what will your position in the Sun family be? Do you know it yourself? Can they still trust you like they trust me? What will you do then? Tianlong said coldly. Tian Long, in fact, you are wrong. Yang Ming listened to Tian Long's words and finally knew why he was determined to betray Sun Hongjun. It turned out that he was planning for the future. Since ancient times, there was a saying that a new emperor would have his own ministers. Tian Long was afraid that after Sun Jia and Sun Jiwei were in power, they would squeeze Tian Donghua, so he made the first move. I am wrong? How am I wrong? Tian Long was not angry this time but laughed. Tian Donghua said that he was wrong, and this Yang Ming actually joined in. I really don't care about the Sun family's business. The business I have in Africa is more than 100 times, including Sun Jia. She will go with me in the future. Then, who will take care of the Sun family's business in Donghai? Yang Ming snorted coldly. Use your pig brain to think about it. Sun Jiwei can't be supported at all. Who else can I trust except for Zhang Bin? Only your son, Tian Donghua, who is 100 times smarter than you, is left. I will hand over the business in Songjiang to Zhang Bin. You can think about who to hand over the business in Donghai. When Yang Ming said this, not only Tian Long but also Tian Donghua was stunned. Tian Donghua never thought that Yang Ming would say this, and he never thought that Yang Ming would hand over the business to him. What kind of trust is this? Tian Donghua suddenly felt sour. He didn't expect that his position in Yang Ming's mind was so important. Yang Ming could actually entrust such an important thing to him. Ha! You can say whatever you want now. After a short moment of astonishment, Tian Long came back to his senses and laughed loudly. It's no use even if you're exaggerating now. Who doesn't know how to speak in hindsight? If you have this idea, why didn't you say it before? Besides, what is the use of your promise? Can Sun Hongjun still listen to you? Tian Donghua pursed his lips at the moment and somewhat disagreed. Because he knew that Yang Ming always kept his word. Yang Ming would not make a promise without thinking. Sure enough, Tian Donghua was right. Yang Ming spoke. First, Tian Long, I can tell you very clearly that what I said is not a hindsight. Yang Ming looked at Tian Long and said word by word, you are you. Tian Donghua is Tian Donghua. You father and son are not the same. I will not vent my anger on him because of your matter, so what I said is still effective. Before I go out, I will hand over all the affairs in Donghai to Donghua. Tian Long did not expect Yang Ming to say this. In this case, Yang Ming could still make this promise. In Tian Long's opinion, it was somewhat inconceivable, but he did not speak. Instead, he listened to Yang Ming continue to speak and see what else he could say. Tian Donghua could no longer control his emotions. His eyes were sour, and he said, Bro. I don't want anything. Yang Ming waved his hand and motioned for Tian Donghua to stop talking and just listen to him. Second, regarding the issue of whether Uncle's son agrees or not, I can tell you for sure that if he knows that I now have 10 times or 100 times his current assets, he will not care about this. 10 times or 100 times? Tian Long's eyes widened. He could not believe that Yang Ming actually had so much money. In fact, the Sun family's assets were hundreds of millions. Yang Ming had 10 times or 100 times more. How much money was that? Of course, 10 times or 100 times is just a metaphor. Yang Ming said faintly. Tian Long breathed a sigh of relief and thought, I knew it. It can't be so much, but this kid is too good at bragging. However, as soon as this thought fell, Yang Ming spoke again. It is at least a few thousand times. Yang Ming added. Huh. Tian Long was really dumbfounded this time. He didn't know if Yang Ming was bragging or if Yang Ming had really reached that height. To be honest, Tian Long, you are really too anxious. Yang Ming sighed. However, although your idea and my idea are the same in the end, which is to let Donghua take care of the business here, since things have already happened, then don't blame me for being impolite. After Tian Long listened to Yang Ming's words, he seemed to finally understand. Perhaps, Yang Ming had really reached a height that he could not reach. It was precisely because of this that Yang Ming could bribe the people around him and succeed. There was still a gap between him and Yang Ming. If you can really fulfill your promise, then I can die with no regrets. Tian Long breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect that Yang Ming's idea was actually like this. Although he didn't know whether it was true or not, since Yang Ming said it, then it was possible. It was also a comfort before he died. I will definitely keep my words. Of course, it is only for friends. Yang Ming glanced at Tian Donghua and said, I don't have many friends. In the school, the only ones who can be considered as close friends are Zhang Bin and Tian Donghua, so I will definitely keep my promise to him. Tian Long nodded and said, well, if this is the case, I thank you. You father and son, if you have anything to say it as soon as possible. I will go out first and leave you some private space. After Yang Ming finished speaking, he turned and left the room without waiting for Tian Long and Tian Donghua to answer. Chapter 1271. This ending was something that Tian Long and Tian Donghua did not expect. Yang Ming's tolerance moved Tian Donghua. He was very grateful to Yang Ming for being able to see him and his father as two different kinds of people instead of one group. Of course, this was also the case, but in this case, it was difficult for someone to keep a clear mind. After all, it was an indisputable fact that he and Tian Long were father and son. Almost everyone would classify them as one group, so Yang Ming's attitude at this time was commendable. Dad. After Yang Ming left, Tian Donghua hesitated for a long time and finally opened his mouth. Although his heart was sad, he also guessed that Yang Ming and the Sun family would never let go of his father, but he couldn't plead with Yang Ming. Donghua, don't be sad. If Yang Ming can keep his promise and fulfill what he said, then I will die without regrets. You are better than your father. At the critical moment, you can keep a clear mind and not stand on the wrong side. This is already very amazing. If you were really in cahoots with me, maybe you would be like me now and become a prisoner. Tian Long was open-minded at the moment. He was also a person who was over 50 years old. He didn't have many pursuits in this life. In his heart, he just wanted his son to have a good life in the future. Now, Yang Ming had made a promise, so it was basically the same as Tian Long's idea. Although the time might be delayed, the result was the same. Thinking of this, Tian Long also calmed down. It seemed that Tian Donghua had been sticking to his own position. It was really a wise choice. At least after Tian Donghua fell, he would not be affected. Yang Ming could still treat him as a brother. This was not easy. Dad. I just know what is right and what is wrong. Tian Donghua sighed. His father's words made him feel very uncomfortable, but there was no way. So, I can't and won't plead with Yang Ming. I know. Tian Long waved his hand indifferently at the moment. Since he was reduced to a prisoner, then he accepted his fate. Even if you want to plead, I will stop you. Why? Tian Donghua was stunned and looked at his father inexplicably. If you plead for me, what will Yang Ming think? He will definitely think that you are still on my side. Then, can he still entrust you with important tasks in the future? Tian Long said, so, for your future, I won't let you do this. Tian Donghua listened to his father's words and was somewhat speechless, but he did not say it because Tian Long would not believe it. Since his father was open-minded, he didn't have to beg Yang Ming. Tian Donghua breathed a sigh of relief, but he was a little sad because he couldn't save his father. Not a friend, but a brother, said Tian Donghua. Yeah. Tian Long smiled. It was a kind of gratified smile. Perhaps, this was the happiest moment before his death. Tian Donghua did not expect that his father could suddenly repent. It was said that a person's words were good when he was about to die. It seemed that this sentence was right. No matter how Tian Donghua advised him before, he insisted on his own point of view. He thought that he was always right and refused to repent. But now, Tian Donghua did not have to say anything. Tian Donghua was very gratified that Tian Donghua could figure out these reasons. It was also Yang Ming's attitude that made Tian Long finally realize his mistake in his heart. He always looked at Yang Ming too simply, but he did not expect that Yang Ming had transcended the level of personal grievances. This made Tian Long somewhat ashamed. Dad, although you finally repent, but, I. Tian Donghua was somewhat incoherent. No matter what, the other party was always his father. It was really difficult for him to sit back and do nothing. Tian Long naturally knew what Tian Donghua wanted to say. He waved his hand and smiled. Don't say it. Okay, there is nothing. You can go out too. Don't tell Tian Dongguang about my matter. That kid has a one-track mind. I am afraid that he can't accept it. Tian Donghua nodded silently. He stood up and was about to go out, but the door behind him was pushed open again. The person who came in was Yang Ming. Finished talking? Yang Ming smiled and looked at Tian Donghua. He also saw that Tian Donghua's face was not very good, it was somewhat pale and weak. Tian Donghua nodded. Okay, I will go out. Donghua, don't you have anything to say to me? Yang Ming grabbed Tian Donghua's arm and looked straight at him. What can I say? Tian Donghua was slightly stunned, then he smiled bitterly. Although I want to say something in my heart, I can't say it. What I want to say is, bro, you should deal with it as you should. Don't take my feelings into consideration just because he is my father. This matter will not affect the feelings between us. From the moment I advised my father and he didn't listen, I knew that I had to stand on the opposite side of him. I have to make my choice, so I have no choice. Yang Ming looked at Tian Donghua very appreciatively. Good, kid. It is not easy to distinguish between gratitude and resentment. Tian Donghua was somewhat helpless. He didn't know what to say, so he waved his hand. I will go out first, don't you want to hear my final decision? Yang Ming glanced at Tian Donghua and asked. I don't want to listen. Tian Donghua shook his head. Although I know that my father asked for it, I don't want to see him. Tian Donghua didn't continue his words, but he believed that Yang Ming would definitely understand. Tian Donghua said that he didn't want to see him die. Let's listen. Yang Ming smiled. Seeing Yang Ming insist, Tian Donghua couldn't help it. Although he didn't know what Yang Ming meant, he probably wanted him to have the right to know. Otherwise, he might regret it in the future. Tian Long, although you deserve it, it is not too much to let you die 10,000 times. However, do you know why I finally decided to let you live? Yang Ming looked at Tian Long and asked word by word. Huh? Tian Long was stunned. Even Tian Donghua on the side showed a surprised expression. They didn't expect that Yang Ming would actually let Tian Long live. Even Tian Long himself thought that he would die, but at this moment, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Tian Long even had an idea. Is Yang Ming playing with me? However, looking at Yang Ming's expression, it didn't seem like it. Bro, you want to let my father go? Tian Donghua also couldn't believe it. He looked at Yang Ming suspiciously and asked. Yang Ming nodded slightly. Killing is not the way to solve the problem. Bro, you can't be because of me. Tian Donghua's voice suddenly choked, and he couldn't even speak. He knew that Yang Ming must have considered his friendship with him, so he made this final choice. This feeling of escaping from death made Tian Long's heart pleasantly surprised. Although he already had the belief that he would die, who was willing to die? As the saying goes, a good death is better than a bad life. Previously, Tian Long knew that he was definitely going to die, so he had no other thoughts. But now it was different. Now that there was hope for survival, Tianlong's mind was naturally active again. The desire to survive was something that everyone had. Because I raised a good son. After Tianlong figured it out, he was not so hostile to Yang Ming, so he was not disgusted with Yang Ming's question. After listening to Yang Ming's question, he answered. Yes, I let you go. Tian Donghua is a factor. Yang Ming nodded faintly. Although Donghua also said that he didn't need to care about his feelings, in fact, Yang Ming couldn't ignore Tian Donghua's feelings. After all, the relationship between the two people was there. Based on Tian Donghua's attitude of breaking with his father, Yang Ming couldn't not be merciful. Yang Ming continued, however, this is only one aspect. The most important thing is your attitude just now. You can repent before you die. This shows that you are not incurable. If you don't repent until you die, then even with this relationship with Donghua, I won't let you go easily. Yang Ming continued, however, this is only one aspect. The most important is your attitude just now. After Tianlong listened to Yang Ming's words, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Yes, he did repent, but this was also based on the premise before he died. Because Tianlong knew that his life was short, he really calmed down and considered whether what he did was right or wrong. Only in this mood, Tianlong could face himself and look at the problem from a fair and just perspective. He finally understood that everything he did was wrong. Who didn't want to live? Tianlong was really scared. If he didn't have the belief that he would die, he wouldn't think of this. At this moment, even if Yang Ming cared about Tian Donghua's feelings, it was impossible to spare him. Thinking of this, Tianlong still said, Yang. Mr. Yang, thank you for not killing me. Although it was a bit pretentious, the fact was that Yang Ming did let him go. However, you don't have to stay here. I can't guarantee that the people of the Sun family won't have any resentment when they see you. Yang Ming looked at Tianlong and warned faintly. I understand. I will leave tomorrow. I will leave Donghai. Tianlong gritted his teeth. Although he was leaving his hometown, and it might be difficult to see his son in the future, Tianlong still had to make this choice. Go to my private territory in Africa, but I won't arrange any position for you. Just treat it as retirement. Donghua can often visit you in the future. Yang Ming had already arranged a reasonable place for Tianlong. Now it seemed that Country X in Africa was the best place for Tianlong. On the one hand, the Sun family definitely couldn't continue to use him. Instead of letting him be an eyesore here, it was better to move him further away. Over there, it was completely Yang Ming's private territory. He wasn't afraid that Tianlong would play any tricks, not to mention that he wouldn't arrange any position for Tianlong. Tianlong himself could understand that after he went there, he would just eat, drink, and play. Of course, Yang Ming wouldn't treat him badly. Over there, he wanted to build a world-class resort for Tianlong to enjoy, but he wouldn't give him any power. Tianlong naturally understood this. Yang Ming let him retire, but this was already the best result. He thought that the death penalty was inevitable, but he couldn't escape punishment. Yang Ming would send him to do manual labor. So, after Yang Ming said the first half of the sentence, Tianlong was nervous for a while. After listening to the second half of the sentence, he felt that joy came from the sky. He was already old. Since Yang Ming intended to let Tian Donghua take over the Sun family's business in Donghai, then he really had nothing to do. It was fine to retire early. I can't ask for more, said Tianlong quickly. Even Tian Donghua was ecstatic because Yang Ming's treatment of Tianlong was simply too lenient. Not only did he not do anything to him, but he also let him go abroad for a vacation. Bro, thank you. Tian Donghua took a deep breath and looked at Yang Ming gratefully, but he didn't say those mushy words because everything was said without words. Tian Donghua knew that Yang Ming took care of his face, so he made such a decision. What are you thanking for? Yang Ming waved his hand. Leave tomorrow. I will arrange everything for you. Tianlong nodded in silence. Donghua, stay here with your father tonight. I will let Zhang Jingua prepare some wine and dishes. You can have a good chat. Yang Ming patted Tian Donghua's shoulder and said. Tian Donghua nodded and said, I understand, bro. You can rest assured. Yang Ming went out of the room again, leaving space for the father and son of the Tian family. He walked to Sun Hongjuan's room. Yang Ming did not discuss with Sun Hongjun about how to deal with Tianlong, so he still had to tell him at this time. After all, Sun Hongjun was Yang Ming's elder. When Yang Ming pushed the door in, he heard Sun Hongjuan's hearty laughter. Looking at Sun Hongjuan's boastful appearance, Yang Ming knew that his mood had completely recovered and walked out of the previous haze. Uncle Sun, what made you so happy? Yang Ming smiled and walked into the room as he spoke. Yang Ming, you are here. Sun Hongjun stood up enthusiastically and walked over to Yang Ming. As he walked, he said, this time, it is thanks to you. Otherwise, we don't know how long we would be locked up. Sun Hongjuan's attitude made Yang Ming somewhat flattered. Although Yang Ming saved him this time, in any case, Sun Hongjun was Yang Ming's elder. This was an unchangeable fact, so Sun Hongjun personally thanked him. This was a kind of affirmation to Yang Ming. Uncle Sun, this is what I should do. Yang Ming quickly smiled and said, it is reasonable for me to do my best. As Yang Ming said this, he couldn't help but look at Sun Jia. Seeing that she was also looking at him with a smile, Yang Ming winked at her, but Sun Jia rolled her eyes. Sun Jia thought that I was showing off to her, right? However, Yang Ming didn't care what she thought. After this time, he believed that Sun Jia would no longer have an ambiguous attitude toward him. Yeah, that's right. We are all a family. Sun Hongjun laughed. After laughing, he remembered Tianlong's matter, so he asked, right, Yang Ming, how do you want to deal with Tianlong's matter? Uncle Sun, this is also what I want to talk to you about. Yang Ming made an inviting gesture. Let's go inside and talk. Sun Hongjun nodded. He also knew that Yang Ming had something important to say to him, so he went into the office inside the suite with Yang Ming. This was prepared by Tianlong for himself. He didn't expect it to become a place for Yang Ming and Sun Hongjun to talk about things. Sun Jia was a little unhappy. She snorted coldly. Apparently, because Yang Ming didn't look for her and went directly to her father to talk about things, she was somewhat dissatisfied. However, this wasn't the time for romance. Sun Jia could only let her be angry. Yang Ming just pretended not to see it. After entering the office with Sun Hongjun and closing the door, Yang Ming said, Uncle Sun, please sit. Yang Ming, you are looking for me to talk about Tianlong's matter, right? Sun Hongjun was very smart. He immediately guessed Yang Ming's purpose. Yang Ming nodded and sighed slightly. Then he said, Uncle Sun, you guessed right. I am looking for you because of Tianlong's matter. Sun Hongjun sat on the sofa without any surprise and said, so, what do you want to do with him? Let him go. Yang Ming didn't beat around the bush, but said directly. Let him go? Sun Hongjun was stunned. He didn't expect Yang Ming to make such a choice. You don't want to pursue his responsibility? I don't intend to pursue it. Yang Ming said affirmatively, so, I have to tell you. Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly in his heart. He thought, you have already made a decision. What's the use of telling me? However, he was rescued by Yang Ming, and Tianlong was also caught by Yang Ming, so Sun Hongjun really couldn't interfere. He said arrogantly that he was Yang Ming's elder, and Yang Ming would be respectful to him. However, if he really wanted to talk about it, the wealth and current status that Yang Ming had were not worse than his. Therefore, although Sun Hongjun was a little unhappy that Tianlong was fine, he still didn't express it. He just said, if this is the case, you can make the decision. Hee, Uncle Sun's heart is a little uncomfortable. Yang Ming wasn't a virgin now. How sharp were his eyes. He naturally had a way to observe people's expressions. He immediately saw Sun Hongjuan's dissatisfaction. That is not true. How could Sun Hongjun admit it? He quickly denied it. Uncle Sun, in fact, this time, I knew that you were under house arrest thanks to my good brother, Tian Donghua. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to find Tian Long so quickly and know a lot of information about Tian Long. Yang Ming naturally had to exaggerate the role that Tian Donghua played in the matter. Tian Donghua knew that his father had done bad things, and he was unwilling to help the tyrant. He resolutely chose to break off. Therefore, I will let Tian Long go based on his affection. Chapter 1272. Sun Hongjun didn't expect that there were such twists and turns in the middle. He couldn't help but sigh. Donghua, that child, is reasonable. He can distinguish between good and evil. This is commendable. So, I decided to let Tian Long go, said Yang Ming. Okay, but I don't want to see him again. At least for a while, I don't want to see him. Sun Hongjun said this, which meant that he agreed with Yang Ming's approach. However, after all, he was under house arrest by Tian Long for such a long time. It was inevitable that he was not angry, so he didn't want to see Tian Long. I am ready to let him go to Africa, my private island, for a holiday and retirement. Yang Ming said, I have arranged this properly. Private island? Sun Hongjun couldn't help but be stunned after listening to Yang Ming's words. He didn't understand what Yang Ming said. He thought he heard it wrong. Yes, it's a private island. Yang Ming smiled and said, I bought a private island in North Africa, but because of its special historical background, it was controlled by some warlords all year round, so it became an independent country. Although it is not recognized internationally, North Africa has tacitly acknowledged its existence. Controlled by warlords? Can this kind of island still be bought? Sun Hongjun was shocked. After you buy it, those warlords won't withdraw easily, right? They don't have to withdraw. I just let them take care of the security on the island for me. Yang Ming said very casually, anyway, there are plenty of people. If they don't do a good job, I can just replace them. Listening to Yang Ming's casual words, Sun Hongjun really didn't know what to say. It didn't seem like Yang Ming was bragging. In just half a year, he could control the entertainment industry in the two cities of Songjiang and Jiduan. Sun Hongjun knew that he was not as bold as this, so it was not impossible for Yang Ming to say that he had subdued the former warlords on the island. That island, how much is it? Sun Hongjun knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him even if he asked now. It was better to have a chance to see it with his own eyes, so he didn't ask about the warlords. Instead, he asked about the value of the island. As a matter of fact, although the assets of the Sun family had already exceeded 100 million, there was actually not much liquid capital. A large amount of funds were placed on real estate and other real estate. The funds that could really be used were actually not much. Although the price of an island ranged from tens of millions to hundreds of millions, and he should be able to afford it, it was a little impossible to take out so much money to buy it all at once. So when Yang Ming suddenly bought an island, Sun Hongjun was naturally very surprised. Just how much money did Yang Ming have? How much? I don't know the details. A friend in Europe bought it for me. Yang Ming smiled a little awkwardly. The island that old Buffon bought was directly given to Yang Ming. Yang Ming naturally couldn't ask how much money old Buffon spent. There was no way to ask. First of all, old Buffon didn't lack this money. The price of an island was only a drop in the bucket for old Buffon. Secondly, Yang Ming was old Buffon's master. His identity was there. It was natural for him to accept things from his disciple. How could he ask the price? Sun Hongjun really didn't know what to say. Such a priceless island was actually given by someone else? Then, what level was the person who gave Yang Ming the island? How could they have already reached such a level? Sun Hongjun asked himself. Even if I have more money, I can't just give an island to someone else. Because in his foresight, he could only afford 1 or 2 such islands in his lifetime. Uncle Sun, I think it's better for you not to care about the business here. Yang Ming hesitated and finally said the words in his heart. Sun Hongjuan's method of controlling his subordinates was still lacking, which led to the situation of Tianlong's rebellion. He only talked about friendship with his subordinates. Although this could make his subordinates work for him to a certain extent, it couldn't completely intimidate his subordinates. For example, Tianlong finally betrayed Sun Hongjun under enough benefits. Oh. Have you decided to take over? Sun Hongjun was slightly stunned and asked with a smile. Letting Yang Ming take over was also Sun Hongjuan's ultimate goal. Now that he heard Yang Ming mention it, he thought that Yang Ming agreed to his proposal. Take over? This time, it was Yang Ming's turn to be stunned, but after thinking about it, he knew that Sun Hongjun had misunderstood. So, he quickly said, Uncle Sun, you misunderstood. I mean to let you give up the business here. Give up? What do you mean? Sun Hongjun didn't understand Yang Ming's words, but he also faintly guessed something. Yang Ming, why don't I understand what you mean? Uncle Sun, don't blame me for overstepping my authority. I have promised Tian Donghua before that the business in Donghai will be handed over to him in the future. Yang Ming was indeed a little embarrassed. Although the Sun family's property was not much, it was not his own after all. It was indeed not right for him to act first and report later. What? Let Tian Donghua take care of it? Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words and looked at Yang Ming. However, when he saw that Yang Ming didn't seem to be joking, he thought that he heard it wrong. Yang Ming, did I hear it wrong? You mean you want to hand over our Sun family's business to Tian Donghua? I have already promised him this before. When Yang Ming saw Sun Hongjuan's appearance at the moment, he knew that he had gone overboard. At least, he should have discussed it with him in advance. Sun Hongjun looked at Yang Ming silently and didn't say a word. Sun Hongjun was very uncomfortable in his heart. However, after a while, he waved his hand and said, Forget it. Since we were all rescued by you, I naturally have to listen to your words. Otherwise, this family business would have fallen into Tianlong's hands. Now that we're free, it's already very good. You can make the decision on these matters. Uncle Sun. The more Sun Hongjun said this, the more uncomfortable Yang Ming's heart was. Don't say it. Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly. Originally, these family businesses were left to you in the future. You just dealt with it early. Uncle Sun, you listen to me. Yang Ming wanted to explain, but Sun Hongjun waved his hand. You listen to me. Sun Hongjun said, After you listen to me, it's not too late to make the final decision. Do you know how much the assets of the Sun family's business are now? It is nearly 200 million. Do you plan to give it away casually? Uncle Sun, in fact, there are some words that I plan to talk to you in detail in a few days, but since I have already said it here, then I might as well say it directly. Yang Ming saw that Sun Hongjun was insisting on the 200 million assets instead of making his own decision, so he was slightly relieved. What? Sun Hongjun felt that Yang Ming had a hidden meaning in his words. He calmed down. He also felt that Yang Ming was not the kind of prodigal who would casually give away the family business. From the speed of Yang Ming's accumulation of wealth, it could be seen that he was not a stupid person. Therefore, if Yang Ming could really give away the assets worth more than 200 million, then it could only mean that either Yang Ming had other purposes, or Yang Ming's wealth had far exceeded this 200 million. Uncle Sun, I am planning to build the island of Country X in Africa into a world-class resort island. Yang Ming said, I believe that Uncle Sun is not unfamiliar with Henry Island, right? I have been to Henry Island. It is indeed a paradise on earth, a world of entertainment for the rich. Sun Hongjun nodded and said, Do you want to build a similar island? The construction cost and cost of this isn't low. Yang Ming nodded and said, I know that the construction cost and cost aren't low, but I still have the strength to build it now. As Yang Ming spoke, he turned on the computer on the table, logged into a bank account inquiry website, and entered his account number in the Swiss bank. Because the internet could only be inquired and not transferred, Yang Ming was not afraid of any viruses or other things in this computer. Yang Ming opened the details under his account and transferred the computer screen to Sun Hongjun. Then, he said, Uncle Sun, this is the cash I currently have, oh? Sun Hongjun didn't take it seriously at the beginning. He casually raised his head and looked at the computer screen. However, at first glance, his eyes were fixed on the screen. 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, 4 zeros, 5 zeros, 6 zeros. Sun Hongjun widened his eyes and began to count the zeros behind the string of numbers on the screen. More than 30 billion? Yang Ming smiled and nodded gently. Sun Hongjun opened his mouth wide in amazement, but when he saw the euro currency symbol in front of the 30 billion, he almost fainted. After a long while, he said, It's still the euro? Yes. This was the black gold that Yang Ming got from Dorsk. However, after that, Yang Ming received a lot of mineral contracting fees in Country X. Those naturally weren't included. It was enough to build Country X into a world-class resort island with that money. I finally know why you don't care about my family property. Sun Hongjun was worthy of being a person who did great things. He quickly recovered from the brief shock and laughed at himself. Since you don't care, then I have nothing to say. Your money is enough to spend for several lifetimes. Uncle Sun, the purpose of showing you this money is not to show off, but to reassure you. Don't let money affect your energy. Yang Ming said with a smile, in fact, the money to build the island can be completely self-sufficient on the island. There are rich minerals on the island. They can't be mined for hundreds of years. I have already contracted out those minerals. The income is enough to build the island. Yang Ming said with a smile. Ah. It turns out to be like this. The island also has the rent of minerals. Sun Hongjun also roughly heard that North Africa was rich in minerals, so he didn't find it strange when he heard Yang Ming say so. The people under me can do a lot of work. One of them can do 10. They can bully those warlords, but they are much worse when it comes to management. Yang Ming said, So Uncle Sun, I want to invite you to take charge of the island strategy and development. Me? Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming and was immediately moved, but then he smiled bitterly. I was almost scammed by Tian Long. How do you think I am still competent for this job? Uncle Sun, you can rest assured and manage it. Don't think about the way of governance. They won't dare to rebel. Yang Ming smiled. Sun Hongjun was a person with courage and ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to make Sun's enterprise big and strong in just a few years. He just didn't know how to restrain his subordinates, but this didn't hinder his business talent. Therefore, Yang Ming put him in this position. He didn't need to be on guard against his subordinates lying to him, but he just needed to use his talents as much as possible. Yang Ming had absolute certainty that the people over there wouldn't dare to betray him because no one wanted to die. They knew Yang Ming's true strength, so no one dared to go against Yang Ming. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming restrained his subordinates, he thought that those subordinates were afraid of Yang Ming. With Sun Hongjun's plan in place, both of them were very happy to leave the office. Sun San naturally wouldn't ask much. He knew the rules, but Sun Jia wasn't very happy. Yang Ming was talking to her father behind her back. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Dad, what were you talking about? You talked for so long. Sun Jia couldn't help but ask. Yang Ming is going to send me, this old man, to Africa. Sun Hongjun said with a smile. What? Africa? What happened? Sun Jia heard it inexplicably and didn't understand. Sun Hongjun glanced at Yang Ming and saw that Yang Ming nodded slightly, So Sun Hongjun told Sun Jia about the incident. Sun Jia listened and clicked her tongue. Sun Jia never thought that Yang Ming actually had an island in Africa. Thinking of Yang Ming hiding it from her, she couldn't help but glare at Yang Ming. Yang Ming was really complaining. Little Jia, I only got the island when I went out this time. Before I could tell you when I came back, you were put under house arrest by Tianlong. After listening to Yang Ming's explanation, Sun Jia was relieved. It wasn't that she was stingy, but now she had recognized Yang Ming in her heart. She felt that she was already Yang Ming's woman. Yang Ming shouldn't hide anything from her. This was the change in Sun Jia's mentality. Even she didn't notice it. Uncle Sun, don't you want to see Tianlong? Yang Ming glanced at Sun Hongjun and asked. Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words and hesitated in his heart. He also knew that Yang Ming also intended to send Tianlong to Africa. That was Yang Ming's territory. Naturally, he wasn't afraid that Tianlong would play other tricks. However, Sun Hongjun still couldn't let it go, even though Yang Ming had decided not to deal with Tianlong. Then let's see. Sun Hongjun hesitated again and again before making a decision. This guy has a lot of ideas. When he goes to Africa, he can be your advisor. Yang Ming smiled. Then you're not afraid that he will play such a trick again? Sun Hongjun was not at ease with Tianlong. He, as long as he can buy my men, then he is capable. Yang Ming snorted. He thought, even if Tianlong gives them more money, they don't dare to play with their lives. Sun Hongjun also nodded. He also felt that Yang Ming must have something to rely on, so he was so assured with Tianlong. The two people walked to Tianlong's room together. Yang Ming naturally looked for Tianlong for something. Yang Ming wanted to wait for Tianlong to calm down completely and ask him about the behind-the-scenes boss. For Tianlong, Yang Ming really didn't have much hatred because he was just a chess piece of the behind-the-scenes boss. Yang Ming's real opponent was still the behind-the-scenes boss. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.